Frankie Parker is suing his tenant, Miranda Miles, for the cost of a French bulldog.
Mr. Parker, this case is about a puppy that you allegedly sold to the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
That you want to be paid for. She has some sort of nonsense counterclaim.
Yes.
Which I will get to and resolve quickly.
Great.
So, Mr. Parker, you have a home that has 2 units in it?
We have a triplex, so it's a house and then it's a triplex behind the house.
So you live in the main house?
Yes.
Behind the main house, there are 3 units?
Yes.
When did you rent one of the 3 units to the defendant?
I rented it to her around February. I think I put the ad in early February.
Of what year?
2022.
Is that correct, Ms. Miles, that you moved into the unit in approximately February of 2022?
It was March, but yeah.
You put the ad in February?
Yes, ma'am.
Moved in March. And what was the rent that you had?
$12.50.
Do you have children?
Yes.
How many?
1.
How old?
9.
According to what I read, you decided to go into the dog breeding business.
Yes, ma'am.
You knew nothing about dog breeding.
Well, I know about dogs, but I didn't know about French bulldogs. That was kind of new to me.
What is your regular business, sir?
Property management.
Other than the property that you live in, do you have any other property that you manage?
Yes, ma'am.
You're really supposed to be sort of an expert before you go into the breeding business.
Yeah, well, I
dog
had a
breeding
lot of
business.
help.
That's sort of a foolhardy thing.
I had a lot of help. I wasn't by myself. I had people that was already breeding. They had 20 years.
Okay,
30
so
years
you had
experience.
somebody to
Yes,
give
ma'am.
you sort of
I
instruction.
didn't just jump into it.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And you decided to breed French bulldogs.
Yes, ma'am.
You purchased your first 2 French bulldogs, a male and a female, when?
I purchased them around January.
Of 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you bought another one.
Yes, ma'am. Another good
When
female.
did you purchase the other one?
I bought the other female around February.
Okay, that's about the same time that you posted an ad for this unit that you moved into.
Yes, ma'am. All around the same time.
And that dog, I believe, based upon my recollection and my memory isn't what it used to be, I think the dog's name is Dolce.
Dolce, yes, ma'am.
How old was Dolce when you purchased her in February?
She was approximately 3 months.
How much did you pay for her?
I paid $3,200 for her.
And did you have AKC papers for her?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, according to your complaint, when the defendant moved in, she moved in March, she moved in with her 9-year-old daughter. The 9-year-old daughter saw this dog, Dolce, became attached to the dog,
Yes.
fell in love with the dog, and the defendant agreed to purchase the dog.
Yes, ma'am.
And you acknowledge that you agreed to purchase the dog.
Yes.
In March of 2022, how much did you agree to pay Mr. Parker for the dog?
When I rented the apartment, he's told me $2,500.
He told you
that's
20.
not true.
Now,
He said $3,500.
Miss, shh.
Frankie Parker claims his tenant, Miranda Miles, owes for the cost of a French bulldog. Miranda is countersuing for harassment and invasion of privacy.
Miss Miles, I want you to think more clearly. Try to be clear. He had just paid $3,200 for the dog.
I didn't know that.
So, according to you, he agreed to sell you the dog for $2,500.
Yes. And then he changed it to $35 when I moved in.
Oh, so before you moved in, he said 25, but after you moved in, he said 35.
Yes.
Did you agree to pay him the 35?
Yes.
Okay, so now you have an agreed price of $3,500, which sounds more reasonable than 25 because he paid more for the dog.
Yeah, that's not entirely true. I told her $5,000 at first.
Okay.
But we'd do a co-ownership, which brought the price down to $3,500.
Okay, right now, she agreed to pay you $3,500.
Yes.
She doesn't understand from co-ownership. You're talking about breeding down the road. Did you pay him any part of the $3,500?
No.
Okay, now let's go further. Are you still living in the unit behind him?
Yes.
So now that's March, April, May, June, July, August. Did you pay March's rent?
Yes.
April,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
June,
Yes.
July,
Yes.
and August.
Not yet.
Did she pay everything except August so far?
Yes, but I had to take her to court to almost evict her to get the money.
Okay. When did you start eviction proceedings? In what month?
I started eviction proceeding in June.
How much behind in rent was she?
She was just that month, but she had been late 2 prior times. So
Okay. How late is late?
Well, I give you a grace period up to the 4th. Sometimes it's like the 10th.
Sometimes it was like the 10th.
Yes.
So we're not talking about months late.
No, she's
Okay.
never,
And
she always paid.
when you took her to court to evict her for non-payment of rent, she came up with the money.
Yes.
Now, we're August 5th now. Did you pay your rent?
Not yet.
Why?
Honestly, I'm struggling. I'm unemployed right now, and he knows my situation with my bank and my account right now, and he knows why. I have no funds at this moment.
Oh, but that's his business.
I get
you
it.
See, that's his business. Do you work?
Not at the moment.
Why?
Because I got fired.
Why?
Because I didn't have transportation, and I've been...
So you didn't go. Well, if you don't go to work or if you come late, then you get fired.
Right, and I also have health problems that I've been going through as well.
That is also, Miss Miles, not his problem.
I know.
Now, I'm going to go back to something that Mr. Parker said, because I think that it's sort of important for me to be able to resolve your counterclaim, because for sure you owe him the price of the dog, which you still have, correct?
Yes.
Did he discuss with you a co-ownership of the dog, which would mean that you would share the litters if the dog was bred?
Yeah, he did. I wasn't very clear about it, but yes, he did, and I was willing to do that, so I was able to afford the dog.
That's going to help me resolve the issue. And you gave him no part of the $3,500.
No.
So, do you want to tell me what your defense is to this? Because your counterclaim is ridiculous. I don't even remember what it is. For harassment, slander, invasion of privacy.
He comes to my house, knocks on my door randomly all the time, every day. He put
Then move.
cameras. He
Then
put
just
cameras.
just a second. Then move.
He put cameras on
Then
all my
move.
neighbors.
Listen to me.
I don't have the money.
Listen to me. Move.
I don't have the money.
Well, that's, again, not his problem. He wants his rent on time, and he would like to be paid for his dog.
Right.
Okay, let's move on
Okay.
to something that's viable.
Okay.
Let's talk about this breeding of the dog, which I think would be absolutely ridiculous. Have you taken the dog to the vet?
Yes.
Dog's gotten its shots?
Absolutely.
Okay. And other than the fact that you say you're not working, there's no reason that you're not paying him for the dog, which you originally agreed to.
No.
$3,500, judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you very much.
But, Your Honor, she's supposed to get full breeding rights. to
I'm
the
not
dog.
giving her full breeding rights to anything. She
Well,
can't take care of herself or her 9-year-old. She has no money. How is she going to breed a
Well,
dog?
we can't do the co-ownership.
No, well, you're not doing a co-ownership, sir. She just bought the dog for $3,500.
That wasn't-
period.
that wasn't
You
the
keep,
agreement.
just a second. You keep the papers. Do you understand?
Okay.
You keep the papers. She doesn't get the AKC papers.
Okay.
She keeps the dog, which means she's going to take care of the dog, get it spayed, do whatever she's supposed to do with the dog.
Okay.
You get $3,500, and don't make deals like this again. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
This court is adjourned.
I wanted either to have the full dog and not no co-ownership, but I guess it didn't work out for me.
You know, I was trying to get the whole amount so we won't have to do a co-ownership anymore. She can either get the dog, the whole rights to it, or just pay me out.
I think he was trying to help me pay for it, and that's why he said the co-ownership, because I was unable to pay for the whole $5,500.
The whole rights to it, or just pay me out, you know.
I think that's what he was trying to do.
But I think overall the judgment was fair.
We live next door, so we have to.
I hope that we can actually do this together, and
We're good. Me and him are good.
I hope it does run smoothly and we don't have any more, like, mishaps.
The case itself was easy, Sarah. Promised you'd buy the dog. Your daughter is in love with the dog. And he said, well, I can't pay for it. This time, the dog's attached, and he seems like a very, very nice man. But we had 2 little Maltese dogs once. I don't know if you remember them.
I remember the
Do
stories.
you remember the story? You were too young to remember the dogs. They were 2 little yappy Maltese dogs. And we thought it might be an interesting experience to breed them.
Oh, yeah.
And
2 New York City judges.
Your 2 New York City judges decided
breed
that
some
it was
Maltese
the
dogs.
worst experience. First of all, I remember after, and I think we had 2 or maybe 3 in the litter, and I couldn't leave them home. So I would take them in a box in my car to the courthouse and open the drawer and keep them in the drawer so that I could feed them, because this mother that wasn't a very good mother for the dogs, and she didn't want to be bothered feeding, so I had a bottle that they had to be fed every 2 hours.
Oh, my goodness.
They were
It's a full-time job.
It was a full.
You
Believe
get
me,
involved.
It was a full-time
when
job. That's it. But it was our last time. You really have to know what you're doing. Otherwise, it's
Educated.
really not fair for the dogs. That's one of the reasons why she did not get the AKC papers, because she's having a hard enough time taking care of herself.
But now she has a pet that her 9-year-old and her can enjoy, and that's the end.
Norma Jimenez and her 17-year-old son, Christopher Espinoza, for damages resulting from a car crash.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2054, Cardozo versus Jimenez Espinosa.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Cardozo, it is your claim that the defendants are responsible for an automobile accident
Yes.
that both totaled your car and injured you and your child.
Yes, Your Honor.
When did this accident happen? What date?
On May 6th, Friday, 2022.
What time of the day?
It was around 7:10, 7:20 a.m.
Where were you going?
I was going to drop off my son to his babysitter
Then where were you going?
at work.
Is that your regular route?
Yeah.
Your last name is?
Espinoza,
How old are you?
17.
You were driving that morning?
Yeah.
Yeah is not an answer.
Yes.
Yes is an answer. Who was in the car with you?
My little sister,
How old is she?
11.
Do you have a driver's license?
Now I do, yeah.
Did you, on May 6th, have a driver's license?
No.
I assume you were taking your sister to school,
Yes.
and then you were taking yourself to school.
Yes.
This was in May. How long had you been driving your sister to school?
6 months.
Where was your mother?
At work.
Did you drop her off at work first?
No.
How does she get to work?
Her own car.
Who owns the car that you were driving?
My mom.
So your mom has 2 cars.
Yes.
What other adults live in your house?
Just my mom.
Your mother,
Yes.
your sister,
Yeah.
and you.
Yeah.
When was the car purchased that you were driving with your sister?
It was a gift.
Who was it a gift to?
Me.
Whose name is it in?
My mom's.
When did you get it? Month and year. Don't speak to him. When did you get it?
January.
January of 2022.
Yes.
So that's why you had been driving your sister for 6 months.
Yes.
The car is in your name?
Yes, Your Honor.
You know that he has no right to drive a car.
He had a driver's permit.
I don't care if he had a permit. You know he has no right to drive a car with a minor in the car.
Well, he took some classes, and we were told by the instructor.
Now, don't tell me what you were told by the instructor, madam. Your insurance company disclaimed on this if you had insurance because he's not allowed to drive a car. Is that correct?
Yes.
What insurance carrier do you have on your car?
AAA.
Who insures the car that he was driving?
AAA.
On your name?
Yes.
When he had this accident, the insurance company, AAA, disclaimed on the accident because he was driving the car.
Yes.
Did they drop you from your policy? Did they drop your policy?
No.
Did they raise your rates?
No, because I was changing insurance at that time when the
So-
accident happened.
So you had no insurance?
We had insurance.
Just look at me. On the 6th of May, do you have proof that there was insurance on the car that he was driving?
Yes, Your Honor.
What carrier?
AAA.
And when did you change carriers?
It was May 5th, but it wasn't going to be affected until the following week.
So you had no insurance.
I hadn't called AAA to let them know that I was changing insurance at that time.
Again, I don't believe. Okay.
I was changing.
Just a second. You have to understand, madam, that to make your life more comfortable so that you could go to work and your little girl could get to school, you let an unlicensed driver drive a car. You have to understand that because he could have killed her and the child. It's outrageous that you let your 17-year-old who didn't have a license drive your 11-year-old daughter, put them in a place where they were in harm's way. You're just very lucky that both of them weren't hurt. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. If you think I'm being harsh, sir, I watched you when you walked in. You thought this whole thing was a joke. You came in smiling. It's not a smiling thing. You did the wrong thing, and if you start doing the wrong thing when you're 17 years old, when you're 27 years old, your mother will come visit you someplace where you don't want to be. Do you understand?
I smile when I'm nervous.
Excuse me?
I smile when I'm nervous.
You smile when you're nervous. Well, your mother smiles when she's nervous, too, because she was smiling, too.
Yeah.
When you walked in here. What, you're not smiling now. You mean you're not nervous now? You're not smiling now. Now you're not nervous. Now I would be nervous. If I were you, I would be nervous. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Tell me what happened 7:30 in the morning on the 6th of May, which was a school day and a work day.
Okay, yes, Your Honor. So I was driving straight like normal on East on Pleasant Valley. And as I was going on a green light into my intersection.
Do you have a photograph? Do you have any?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
And May 6th was a Friday, just so you know. May 6th was a Friday.
Yeah. Thanks. Your car is the red car?
Yes, Your Honor.
This doesn't tell me anything, actually. It just shows your car totally destroyed. Do you have a police report?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'd like to see a police report.
Yeah, and I'll put it so she can kind of see my car, his car.
This is the diagram that the police prepared.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you were going straight,
Yes, Your Honor.
and he was making a left turn.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you were through the intersection.
Yes.
Looks as if you were through the
I was about
intersection.
to be. It was like in the middle of the intersection.
What kind of citations were you issued, sir?
Just without a license.
What?
Without a license.
Okay. I'm just letting you know, Ms. Jimenez, the plaintiff had visible injuries that the police noted. Do you understand that?
Yes.
The airbags went off?
All of them, Your Honor.
Other than the marks that you had on you as a result of the seatbelts and the airbags going off, did you have any other injuries?
So that was actually my son.
That was your son?
Yeah, that was my son because of the
Seat-
seatbelts. Mine were both of my arms because when the airbags deployed, it crushed all my side. So both my arms were bleeding.
You were making a left turn.
Yeah.
She was going straight.
Yes.
You had a green light, but she was going straight and she had a green light. Do you understand?
Yeah.
That means you can't left turn. If she's going straight, that means she's got a green light. That's what it was. And you have to wait until she goes before you make a left turn.
Yeah.
Paulina Cardozo claims Norma Jimenez and her 17-year-old son, Christopher Espinoza, owe for damages resulting from a car crash.
Okay. Now, when you got there, you started to yell at her. You want to tell me why? You want to tell me why you were yelling at her?
I didn't even yell at her. I got to the place, and then there was somebody waiting for me and told me that she had just hit them, like the person that there was a
You
witness.
can't tell me. Yeah.
There was somebody that saw the,
He hit her.
boy. There was somebody that saw the accident, but that person unfortunately couldn't be here.
Okay.
But
I'm asking you why you were yelling at her. Did you have a conversation with her?
I never had a conversation with her. I just
Okay.
asked her, "Are you okay?" And then she said, "They're taking my son to the hospital." That's all she said. And when I got there, the firefighter told me.
No, don't tell me what anybody
Okay.
told you, madam. Don't tell me what anybody told you. You called your mother?
Yes.
You used your cell phone.
No.
How did you call her?
My sister.
You used your sister's.
Yes.
And she came right over.
Yes.
Miss Cardozo was there when your mother got there.
Yes. Or
You want to answer me? Did your mother and Miss Cardozo, were they at the scene at the same time at any time
No.
before she was taken to the hospital?
No.
When your mother says that she asked Miss Cardozo, "Are you okay?" that wasn't true.
No.
Was it true or it wasn't true?
It was true.
It was true, so that well, how did she communicate with Miss Cardozo if she didn't ask her, if she wasn't there? I'm going to ask you again. Was your mother at the scene when Miss Cardozo was also at the scene?
Yes.
And did you tell your mother that the accident was Miss Cardozo's fault?
No.
What did you tell your mother?
That we got in a car accident.
She didn't ask you what happened? Come on.
Yes.
Come on. Your mother asked you what happened.
Yeah.
And what did you tell her?
What happened?
Well, let me hear what you told your mother happened.
I was going in East Pleasant Valley Road. I put my left turn signal to go to the left turn lane.
You were in the left turn lane.
Yes.
And?
I waited to turn and turn.
And?
I was there and she swerved in and hit me.
She what?
She swerved in and hit me.
She swerved and hit you while you were making a left turn. She
Yes.
swerved into you. That's what you told your mother?
Yes.
Yeah. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
I feel like she was very fair.
To my understanding, what they have told me is like he was allowed to drive.
It's been a hardship for us.
And that's why I let him drive.
I was scared. I didn't know if he had broken something or something worse.
I only asked her, are you guys okay? Like, what happened? Somebody told me that it was you that hit them.
Till this day, it's haunting. My son doesn't like to get in the car anymore, so it's straining.
He wasn't even cited for the accident. He was cited for not having a license.
I think she thought it was my fault, and I feel like she still thinks it's my fault, but it was not my fault.
She was the one that hit him.
You need to have insurance, and you need to know how to drive.
I'm glad it's over.
This is a public service announcement to the governor of the state of California. Do everybody a favor. Propose legislation that mandates that if you drive without a license as an underage driver and you're caught and or have an accident, you are ineligible to get a driver's license until you're 25 years old. That would probably be a deterrent for some people. Something is wrong with the system. Those are my words for the day.
Ellen Henderson is suing her ex-roommate, Tara Williams, for breaking a lease and filing a false restraining order.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2023, Henderson versus Williams.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Henderson, you and your kids and Miss Williams and her kids decided to rent a house together.
Yes.
And when was that initially?
We moved in January 21st of 2021.
How large a house was it?
5-bedroom.
And who moved in with you?
Me, my 2 children, Tara, her 3 children, and...
The third roommate?
Yes.
What was your share of the rent?
The share of the rent,
Yours?
$14.95.
And yours?
We paid, me and her split it, and then took cash from...
The third roommate?
Yes, so $14.95 too.
And you lived there for a year. What I gather is sort of towards the end of the year, things were getting a little testy between the two of you, either because of you or because of the kids. You had children, and things weren't working out, so that both of you were not real happy with each other. That be a fair statement?
Yes. It started earlier in 2021.
I'm sure, but at the time that the lease was up, you both weren't really happy with each other. And according to your complaint, she left, you were stuck paying the rent, and she had signed a renewal of the lease, and you want her to pay her portion of the rent until you found a new roommate, which you actually found a new roommate several months later. The defendant says she told you that she was contemplating living with you for another year, that her speculation that you went into her room and took a signed copy of the lease and gave it to the rental agent or whoever it was.
It would have been in the kitchen in my area where my papers were.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And it was never her intention to sign a second lease. Your lease was up in January of 2022.
Yes.
The defendant was away for a period of time. When was the defendant away? Just prior to January of 2022.
She went to Hawaii for a week.
When?
I think she left on January 8th, give or take a day, I don't remember.
And did you return the signed copies of the lease to the landlord?
No, they were turned in December.
By both of you?
For the lease renewal, all 3 of us re-signed in December, and I have a copy of that.
What I'm asking you is, were they turned in, because that's very easy to verify, were they all turned in before she went to Hawaii?
Yes.
Okay. I'll see what you have. Well, Miss Williams, if it's your statement that she took your signed copy of the lease and turned it in without your permission at some point when you were in Hawaii, that's what you're alleging. If this doesn't bear that out, Miss Williams, I'm going to tell you it doesn't lend itself to the truth of that statement, because this indicates that the 2 of you and the third roommate signed this on December the 19th. Then you turned it in. Then it was turned in. That was before you went to Hawaii. The landlord signed it on December 20th, which means that if the landlord signed it on December 20th, he signed it before you went to Hawaii, which means she couldn't have stolen your copy of the lease.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yeah, no, I'm not stating I was in Hawaii when she turned it in. I left for Hawaii January 8th through the 18th.
I understand that.
Okay. I was unaware.
When our lease was up for renewal, we weren't getting along, and I was on the fence about spending another year with Ellen. In December, we received a copy of the lease renewal. I felt pressured into signing it, but then we told Ellen we needed more time, just you. I had to leave town. Well, I don't know, you don't have any witness here because you say I had to leave town, so I decided to hold on to the lease until I returned. Where did you go?
I went to Hawaii.
Well, that was in January.
Yes.
Well, but the landlord got a copy of the signed agreement December 20th.
I didn't know it was turned in.
Oh, well,
Receive an
I
email.
don't know whether it was turned in or not.
So I emailed Rentcon,
okay.
and I have messages stating it was received from Ellen.
Okay. I'll see what you have.
Okay.
No,
The next.
this doesn't say that at all. Lease renewal was signed by all 3 tenants. Correct. Lease was signed by all 3 tenants, and it was received before you went to Hawaii on the 20th of December. Okay. Easy. You moved out in February?
January 31st of 22.
When was the first lease up?
The 22nd of January 22.
So you stayed on after the lease was up?
Yes.
Why?
I wasn't completely moved out yet. I
Oh,
was in
that's
Hawaii.
bad.
I had reached out to Rincon about paying extra to pay the extra few days.
Okay. And when did you get a new roommate?
Ellen Henderson claims her ex-roommate, Tara Williams, broke their lease and filed a false restraining order against her. Tara is countersuing for a security deposit, utilities, and damaged property.
Okay. When did you get a new roommate?
She moved in April 18th.
Did she pay January's rent?
Yes.
So you're talking about February and March.
February, March, and then prorated April.
Well, February and March, $14.95, $29.90. Okay. The next part of your case involves filing for a false restraining order. Did you file a restraining order, Miss Williams, against Miss Henderson?
Yes.
I'd like to see what it says. No, don't give me that whole thing. Your application for a restraining order, I'd like to see what your application for... Don't hand them that whole thing. I said I'd like to see what your application for a restraining order said. Okay, so what you say is she sent you 3 letters. You're asking because she sent you 3 letters. They were annoying. I want to know what she was asking for in those letters. Was she asking for rent money? Was she asking for rent?
Yes.
Okay, so she was asking for her money,
Yes.
for your rent money for
Yes.
the months that she didn't have a roommate. Well, that's not harassment, madam.
There's more, but...
What?
There's more. She's telling me that I stole some of her stuff and stuff. In the first letter, it says, if you don't pay this in 5 days, we'll take...
Yeah, she's
legal
allowed to
action.
say that. Okay.
Yeah, which
so
is
she wrote
totally
to you.
fine, but she sent it 2 more times, emailed it, and then showed up at my children's school while I was dropping them off.
Did you keep blowing her off, or did you answer her?
No, I...
No, just a second.
I did not
Did you
answer.
blow her off, or did you answer? So the answer is you blew her off.
Yes, I was fine with going to court.
You blew her off
Yes.
about the rent, which she was stuck with.
Right.
Right. Okay, good. $29.90 is what she owes you for rent. Now, part of your counterclaim for get money for damages, you get security deposit. How much was her security deposit?
We paid equally between me and her.
No, how much did she pay?
It was half of...
How much was your security deposit?
$1,747.50.
1747. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And where is her security deposit?
In our lease, it states that if you break the lease, the deposit stays with the house. And I have an email from the property management stating that same thing, that she signed a lease saying that if she leaves early, the money stays with the house until everyone moves out.
So the security deposit, if you and your new roommate keep the house safe, you're going to get back.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't allege any damage. Is that correct?
I had to clean up the carpets in her room upstairs and...
Okay. Do you have an invoice for that?
No, I did it myself.
Okay. 2990 less 1747.
$1,243.
So far, she owes you $1,243. That's less the security deposit, which you and your hopefully neat roommate will get back.
May I say something about the payments for rent? So it was me and her doing equal rent at $1795.25. So that's what I paid. Me and her paid that in January, and I paid the entire amount in February, March.
I understand she was no longer paying rent. You're getting the rent, but I'm deducting from that.
My portion is $17.95, and that's what I'm asking her for, because that's what her portion was when she moved out as well.
Just a second. Am I correct that she, at the time you moved in, individually paid as a security deposit $1,747? Is that correct?
Yeah, but I'm talking about the rent payments. It's not $14.95, it's $17.95.
Was your rent each month $14.95 or $17.95?
$14.95.
Can I see it? Anybody have any proof of that?
I printed out the log, but she paid us $300 each in cash. So there's no, she is on the lease, but it does not show she was paying cash.
You mean the third roommate?
Yes.
The third roommate?
Right.
So your amount was $14.95?
Correct.
I got it.
Up
Okay,
until
good.
the end of December.
Okay, I'm finished. Now, the next part of your counterclaim is for utilities. Security deposit you get back. What utilities do you think she owes you?
She did not pay me November, December, January, or February closing for utilities.
Did you pay them?
I paid them.
I'd like to see where you paid them. No, don't give me a whole bunch of papers. I don't want to see a whole bunch of papers that I have to go through. I want to see what utilities there were, when you sent her, a statement of what the utilities were.
Yes.
I assume it worked that she paid you a portion of the utilities.
Yes, it was
What
split.
portion of the utilities did you pay?
We split it equally the whole time we were there.
Okay, so whatever utility bills that were paid by her, you were supposed to pay half.
Correct. Which
Did you?
my last payment to her was December 4th for Spectrum Water, Trash, and Gas.
That was 12/4. How much did you pay her?
$364.61.
Okay, just a second. Did she pay you $364 in December?
She did for prior months.
So that was for November. That covered November. If it was paid in December, that covered November.
It would have been more so October. I
can't get involved with that, madam. Don't give him a whole bunch of papers. Don't give him a whole bunch of papers. December and January statement for utilities. You were gone in February.
Yes.
December and January bills for utilities. Did you pay those?
I did not, because she left me with all the rent.
I understand that, but now you're getting your rent. Now we're going to settle up on the utilities.
And I didn't include it in the lawsuit, but she still owes me for trash. And I have a list of stuff that she took of mine that I did write
I'm not interested in it, Miss Henderson.
And
It
she
didn't work out. You
overcharged-
should be very happy. She's gone. You didn't like her.
She overcharged me utilities with her business expenses.
Okay.
Every month we lived there.
Her ex-roommate, Tara Williams, of breaking their lease. Tara claims she filed the restraining order because Ellen was stalking her.
Miss Henderson, it didn't work out. You should be very happy. She's gone. You didn't like her.
She overcharged me utilities with her business expenses.
Okay.
Every month we lived there.
We have a bill for December and January. If there's anything here that's not December and January, I'm dismissing that part of your claim. And I already have a bill that's dated April of 2022.
Right. That was for January and February water.
That's $390. Billing date 4/14. No.
It was.
No. I want you, because I'm losing my patience slowly. Please read out the bills, the total bills for December and January only. Sarah, get ready.
Can it go till February 1st?
Yes.
Okay.
By the way, while she's looking for that, did you go to her kid's school?
I served her a letter of default and a cease and desist letter in the parking lot of her school, kids' school. Because she didn't pick up a letter from the mailbox. She knew it was coming from me. And I had to go back to the mailbox and get it after a month.
Okay.
And I didn't know where she lived. I didn't know how else to reach her.
Okay. Did you come in contact with her on the 25th of May in a pedestrian car incident?
Not that I recall.
About 1 minute to 8 in the morning. Who drives a white minivan?
Me. What was the date?
May 25th.
Oh, yeah, that was her kid's school. That was her kid's school when I delivered the letter.
Well, that's why she filed for protective order against you. Not unreasonable. It was dismissed after a hearing, or it was just dismissed?
It was dismissed after a hearing.
Yeah. Part of your claim for filing a false restraining order is dismissed. I could actually see why you would get frightened if somebody went to your kid's school to serve you papers. Okay, what are the bills for utilities?
Can I just say something?
Sure.
I had to give her those letters in order to file for small claims.
Okay.
I had tried to mail it, and she didn't go to the post office.
I got it. Could we have the utilities? Which utility and what is it? You should have all this together for me and not make it difficult. This is why you were coming. Don't read out the numbers, what the utility is for what month and the amount.
So water, $257.94. Water for February was $132.09. For 12/03 bill date for electricity was $167.
What date?
12/23.
That's December.
Yes,
but that was for November.
I thought we were doing December, January.
For December, but you wouldn't have gotten December's bill in December. You would have gotten it in January.
It was prepared 12/03.
Right, but that's dealt with November. It was prepared 12/03. They're not prorated. Come on, let's go.
Okay, 2/04. This was prepared for electricity, 74.72.
Okay.
This one was for the date that I ended of 1/28 to 2/01. It was 12.78 for Edison electricity.
Let's move on.
And then this is gas for 12/29 to 1/27. It was 37.04. And then the ending charges was 5.72.
Got it? Yes. $5.72. I can't believe it. Okay, would you add those up?
Yeah.
And your arrangement with her, Ms. Henderson, was that you each paid half of the utilities. Is that right?
Yeah. Can I say something about that too? Back in April or May of 2021, I went to her to speak and ask about me paying less for water, gas, and electric because she brought all of her Airbnb laundry. She has a cleaning business. And our washers and dryers were going constantly.
And she
didn't meet me halfway, so I was stuck paying half.
Fine.
I have the total whenever you're ready. 507.51.
Divide it by 2.
$254.
1243 less 254. 1243 is what she's owed now, less the security deposit. I love this case. Couldn't be more excited about it.
$989.
Judgment for the plaintiff, $989.
Your Honor,
They're finished. Thank you very much. We're done.
Court is adjourned.
Thank you.
It's sad that I lost, but I put up a good fight.
I'm happy with the decision.
She didn't want to live with me, that there were issues. Why would you turn in a lease to renew for a whole nother entire year with someone?
It's been a lot of stress.
I wanted her to file suit so I could see her in court in order to take care of the matter.
I had nowhere to go, and I didn't think she was going to renew, to be honest.
0 roommates. Don't do it.
I mean, I went into it thinking that this was going to be a good situation. I really got along, and I loved her and her kids, and I don't know that I could have done anything different.
So the new phenomenon that I've seen over this past generation, for as long as I've been in this business, is because of the economy, people having to live together that are neither in love with each other or related to each other. And I actually think, Sarah, that's such a very hard thing to do. You know, this isn't the first case that we've had that involved adults and their kids having to, for financial reasons, move in with each other. I think I've always said, and I don't know how you feel about this, that I'd rather live in a shoebox alone than with strangers in more comfortable surroundings.
Sure. I think that's a tough call that a lot of people are having to make nowadays with the cost of living and inflation.
Young people.
Young people. 2 single mothers trying to live together with their children to give them a home environment. So it's a risk that you take when you don't know the other person. Even when you do know them, we see family members fighting all the time. So I think it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I don't know. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that people have to make those kinds of choices for happiness. Shouldn't create that kind of stress.
I think the best thing you can do is have a concrete contract to fall back on for if something like this happens, because it's a very stressful situation.
Yeah, but nobody wants to take that risk. Yeah. Nobody wants to, who's signing a lease agreement, say, if it doesn't work out, this is what happens. Well, that's never between the tenant and the landlord. As between those two people, maybe it would be enforceable, but not between the two tenants and the landlord.
Landlord still gets his money.
Landlord gets his money. Stay with people who you love, or you have to.
Case 2073, Josephs versus Williams. All parties, Please step forward.
Donnell Joseph is suing his niece, Tina Williams, and his sister, Martha Williams, for personal property.
Mr. Joseph, these two ladies are your half-sisters?
My half-sister and her daughter, my niece.
So, what's your first name?
Martha Williams.
Martha is your half-sister.
Yes.
And your first name?
Tina.
Tina is your niece.
Yes.
And you and Martha had the same mother.
Yes.
Your mother had a house. The house was in her name. Your mother passed away in the early 70s.
Yes.
At that time, she was married to your father, not your father, correct? No. And your father lived in the house until he died.
Yes.
And he died in what year?
2018.
Somehow the house, which had been in your mother's name, never went through a probate process. So as far as the law was concerned, the house remained in her name. It never went to her surviving spouse or her children when she passed away in the early 70s. What I'm reading is when your father passed away in 2018, the house sort of remained vacant for a while. For how long?
Since he passed away.
So nobody has lived there?
Correct.
And you knew your father passed away, I assume?
Yes.
And you knew your mother passed away?
Yes.
And after your mother passed away, she passed away in 1971 or 1972? Did you ever visit with your father in that house?
I visited with my father. I lived in the house.
From when to when?
Well, I lived in the house 1963 until like 72, and I started moving out. But I would still go back to the house because it's my family home.
I want to know the last time, Mr. Joseph, you lived in the house.
1993.
So, almost 30 years ago. And where have you been the last 30 years?
I've been in New York. I've been incarcerated.
You've been incarcerated from when to when?
93 to 2012.
So 1993 is when you last lived in the house?
Correct.
But you were released from prison in 2012?
Yes.
So for the last 10 years, you have not been back to the house?
I've been back to the house, but not living there as a resident.
Okay. So for 10 years.
Right.
As an adult, how old are you?
I'm 64.
As an adult, from age 54 to 64, you had access to the house, visited your father in the house.
Right.
Not before then.
Right.
Okay, and you haven't lived there full-time in decades.
Correct.
This is what your lawsuit wants.
Donnell Joseph claims his niece, Tina Williams, and his sister, Martha Williams, threw away his personal belongings. Tina and Martha are countersuing for the cost of a cleaning crew.
Your lawsuit is seeking $10,000.
Yes.
Because, according to you, the defendants disposed of your property that was invaluable. And I'm going to describe the property that you say was invaluable. A 1911 Boy Scout handbook.
Yes.
That you treasure.
Yes.
You should have taken it out of the house in 30 years if you treasured it. A mountain bike, purchased in what year?
Was it 71 to 72, around there? I know it was a free spirit, 10-speed I got. That was in 1970 in the Univega.
You wanted it, this 50-year-old mountain bike? You should have taken it over the last 10 years. A vintage reel-to-reel tape player.
Yes.
You know how many of those I threw in the trash? Do you have any idea how many of those I threw in the trash? You got those a half a century ago. Oh my God, I remember them, big reels, and how excited we were. You could talk into a microphone, and then you could hear your voice come back, and then all of a sudden you got a phone. You could do that, the same thing. So everybody took these things, and they couldn't find enough places to dispose of them. It's not vintage anything. It's a piece of trash.
Can I speak, Your Honor?
About what?
Okay, the reel-to-reel tapes, right? Some of the tapes had speakings of my brother and Martha's daughter.
Then you should have taken them with you. In 40 years, if they were treasures of yours, sir, and you're 64 years old, I would want those treasures around me. And you had 10 years after you were released from prison to go and get these treasures. And you didn't do it. You just left them in your father's house.
Because my father's house was like the treasure of all his children's property. This is how we connected to our father, because everybody has left, everybody has died. So as long as he has...
As long as he had a bicycle?
As long as he had a
bicycle or a Boy Scout book?
The Boy Scout book was handed down to me from my father's.
Let's start being real.
Okay.
Okay, let's start being real.
Okay.
And the first draft of my published manuscript.
Yes.
Why didn't you take that with you?
For safekeeping, I let my father hold it because
Well, that's not a good idea, sir. How old was your father when he passed away?
He was 88, but my father's mind was sharp as a tack. He kept everything.
If you wanted it, your father passed in 2018, is that what you're telling me?
I couldn't get nothing out of the house, so...
I don't know whether you could or whether you couldn't. When did you make just a second. When did you make an effort to remove your forget about the bike, forget about reel-to-reel tape recorder, forget about the nonsense. Your manuscript. When did you write this manuscript?
I wrote it over a couple of years. It's the first draft of this book.
It's the first draft of that book.
This book.
Well, now you have the book.
But I needed to draft it because the other draft I'm working on the second book that goes along with this book, I don't have certain notes and things that I had.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Yes, it doesn't.
It doesn't exist anymore. Okay. And if you wanted it, you should have gotten it. In 2018, when your father died, you were out of prison. Where were you living?
I was living in New York.
And where did your father live?
He lived in Los Angeles.
Between 2012 and 2018, how many trips did you make to visit with your father?
About 3.
And when did you publish that book?
2015.
So you published that book during your father's lifetime?
Yes.
And if you needed the manuscript, you came to visit your father. A manuscript, it's this big. That's how big a manuscript is.
Yes.
Where were you living in New York?
In Albany.
You have your own apartment or your own home?
House.
Do you own or rent?
Own.
When did you purchase it?
My wife, we bought it together. It was in 2009.
So you're married?
Yes.
Have children?
No.
So you and your wife purchased a house in 2009. How much did you pay for the house?
$109,000.
Are you still living there?
Yes.
So you had plenty of room in the house. You had plenty of room for a manuscript, tapes, a manuscript that you were working on. You weren't working on the manuscript long distance. What I'm telling you, Mr. Joseph, is the things that you're suing for are nonsense.
Okay.
If things that you wanted, that a grown-up man, 64 years old, gets if he wants them, it's not that you're homeless, you have a home that you purchased. You went to visit your father 3 times, anything of value. We're not talking about furniture and antiques and a grandfather clock. We're talking about things that can fit in a tissue box.
Yes.
You put them in your suitcase and take them with you if they're valuable.
I couldn't visit California before that because of the conditions of my parole. So the times that I could go, I can go out there, and I had to have...
You told me you went out there 3 times.
Yes.
When your father was alive.
When I had permission to go. So I couldn't, after my father passed away, I couldn't go in the house because that would violate the probate thing. So I had permission to go into the house.
You're not understanding me, Mr. Joseph.
Okay.
You're not understanding me. You went there 3 times after you were out of prison, after you had a home, after you were married. When you went there with a suitcase, don't tell me violating your parole unless you told me that. And in the suitcase should have been when you returned from California to New York, small things of value that you say were invaluable to you, including a manuscript. Forget the bicycle. Forget the tape-to-tape reel recorder. The tapes that you say were precious to you, if they belong to you, put them in a suitcase. So there's a lot more about this that I don't quite understand. There's a lot about this that I don't quite understand. When your father passed away, who got the house?
The house is...
Your father passed away, what happened to the house?
The house is still in probate.
Oh,
so
okay.
during the probate thing, I had to have permission to take anything out of the house.
Forget, I'm telling you, I've answered your lawsuit, sir.
Okay.
I've answered your lawsuit.
Thank you.
That you're a 64-year-old man, and if something that could fit in a tissue box was that precious to you when you visited your father and you had a home, you would have taken it with you when you left.
Certain things I couldn't take.
This is not a tea dance.
Donnell Joseph claims his niece, Tina Williams, and his sister, Martha Williams, threw away his personal belongings. Tina and Martha are countersuing for the cost of a cleaning crew.
I asked you if the house is still in probate, which is unfortunate because people didn't take care of the business. Who are the beneficiaries of the sale of the house?
Me, my sister LaWanda, my half-brother Justin Joseph, my sister Sherry's 2 sons.
Okay, let's try to clarify this. Are you the executor of the will?
There's no will. I'm My mom's the administrator of the probate.
And I just got to be administrator. We had to go back and forth to court. We had no way of getting in and out of the house because we had no keys.
Okay. And your father, I assume, had no will.
He had no will.
What's the value of the house?
Well, we don't know because since Martha became the administrator,
Just a second. What's the address of the house?
My mom had the house appraised at $250,000.
She's going to tell you.
So the off market says it's approximating $464,000. It's a 3-bed, 1-bath, 858 square feet.
And the estimate?
The range is between 400 and 515.
Ooh, well, the family has a valuable asset that has yet to be divided after all this time. It's a good lesson for everybody out there. Make a will. Now you can tell me.
Thank you. My grandma, which is their mother, she bought the house on her own with my mom's last name, which is her dad's statement. It's her maiden name, who she was married to. We don't know if they were married. That's what we're going through in probate. It's a process, but the beneficiaries would be Donnell, my mom, and 2 heirs of a deceased sibling. Donnell has also been in jail for most of my life. He hasn't been to California at all, so I wanted to back that up as well.
Well, he's not entitled to anything.
Okay.
If he wanted these items that were valuable to him, he should have taken them during his 64 years.
The most safest place that I had in the world for my valuables
Well, that's
to be
too
held
bad.
was
If
my
you
father.
own a home in New York with your wife and you had an opportunity to take these valuable things because you said you visited with your father after 2009, then you should have taken them. And don't tell me it was the safest place because...
Not only the safest thing, but my father, he lost 2 sons. And the only thing that he had in his house is the things that was left over from his children. And to take anything that was of value away from his children would have hurt my father. So the safest place for all our property.
Mr. Joseph, you don't think you're going to prison hurt your father?
Yes.
Okay. Let's
That's why I changed my
real.
life around.
Let's get real. Okay. You're not getting any money here.
Okay.
You're going to wait for probate, and in the probate procedure, which hopefully won't take forever, but it clearly can because people are irresponsible and don't create a will, it is likely that you will have part of the proceeds of this house. Likely. Only because if your mother passed away, and if she was in fact married to your father or lived with him at that time in California, if there was a common law relationship and they did have children together, then you as an offspring would be entitled, if there was no will, to part of the proceeds of this house.
Yes. When she bought the house, she bought it as a married woman. So once she didn't buy
you
it
don't
as
have
a single
to listen.
property.
That's something, Mr. Joseph, you don't have to convince me of. You have to convince the probate judge of.
Okay.
You also have the counterclaim that's ridiculous, and I'm not entertaining it. It's really just stupid. Stay with probate. When is the probate proceeding supposed to be finished?
Well, we're going through a mandatory settlement.
One thing I want to say, Your Honor, however this probate is, I wanted to, the property has lost this, but I lost a sister in this process.
He said he was.
And it makes no difference of how this go. I lost a sister. My niece, she's
This
something else,
isn't the
but I love
probate.
my sister.
This isn't the probate court,
I
Mr.
love my
Joseph.
sisters.
This is not the probate court, Mr. Joseph. And I suggest that if you love your sister,
she know I love her.
Just a second. If you love your sister, and you're
I don't know how
64
she could
years
do
old,
this to me
and you're 64,
when you know I love you.
Shh, Mr. Joseph. Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
I know you can get emotional in situations where family is involved, and your sister clearly is sick because she's using
sick.
oxygen.
I just had liver surgery.
Mr. Joseph, what I'm telling you is, if you have an opportunity in the probate court, I'm actually telling this to both you and Miss Williams, if you have an opportunity at your age and your stage to settle something that gives each of you something, maybe less than you would get if somebody was disinherited, but at this stage in life, at 64 years old, somebody who just had liver surgery and someone who must rely on oxygen in order to breathe, my common sense tells me that what you do is not to give the whole thing away to lawyers who are there sucking up whatever profits there are going to be in this house. Because if the house is worth $200,000, you're going to get a bill for $140,000 for the probate administrator, for the lawyers, and you're going to wind up with zippity-doo-dah. So I would suggest that you all take a deep breath and say, whatever it is, let it be finished. You have no case, Mr. Joseph. Rely on the probate system. I wish you good luck. I said your countersuit's ridiculous. And I'm dismissing.
I have proof.
I want to tell you something. Your countersuit for having to rehire somebody to move is ridiculous. I'm telling you, rely on the probate court. We are done here.
Would you please let me present my countersuit?
No, I read it. I'm dismissing it on its face. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
All I can say is I love my sister.
Just the same thing that's happening, nothing.
Whether it's a probate thing or not, that ain't gonna never change.
I don't want to hear anything else.
I'm always love her, because that's my sister.
Let the probate court decide it.
You know, at 25, after doing season 1 of this show, I created and executed a will because this is a situation we've seen far too many times, and it's so unfortunate to see the breakdown of a family over something that could have been prevented had the mother, father, grandfather, grandmother created a will when they were alive to tell the rest of us how they'd prefer their property to be disposed of.
It's fascinating to me that their mother is gone for 50 years. And for 50 years, that title to that house, which is
Never got flagged, never was...
Nobody ever thought about it.
Yeah.
And the father lived there for 40 years.
Must have at least paid the taxes and maintenance
because
on it.
Absolutely. And then he's gone, and everybody is in this awful state of limbo. And you know what it is with all those siblings and half-siblings and grandchildren and whatever. Even if the house, she says she had it appraised for $250. You looked it up, and
it was much more, but it's hard to tell.
$400,000. But even if it is, and it has to be divided with 6 people, that's a substantial chunk of money, but it doesn't look like for either one of them it's life-altering money. He lives in a home, he has a wife, he looks as if he's okay since he's been released from prison, but he has health issues. His sister has health issues, and they're going to spend the last years of the
stressed, worried about this probate,
angry. I mean, I saw how emotional Mr. Joseph got. I love my sister. Well, if you love your sister, then you don't sue her.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Anyway, your advice is solid and sound, and I support it.
Is suing his ex-girlfriend, Erica Christian, for personal property and filing a false restraining order.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Case 2052, Henry versus Christine.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Henry, what you're doing is suing the defendant with whom you had a relationship for a period of time for the return of property that you had in an apartment that you once shared, and for filing a false restraining order, a false police report.
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendant says that you never lived with her, that you damaged her front door, and you filed a restraining order against her that was false. So, Miss Christian, I think I'm going to start with you.
Yes, ma'am.
According to the papers that were filed, you and Mr. Henry did in fact live together for a period of time up until...
October 9th.
Shh. Up until October 9th of 1921.
Yes, Your Honor.
Of 2021, 1921, who hardly almost the year of my birth.
Yes, ma'am.
2021, when he left.
Yeah, without a note.
Just a second. October of 2021. Then the information that I have contained in these papers indicate that he sort of came begging back. And that was in February.
Yes, ma'am.
Of 2022. And you took him back.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was living with you. You were living in the same apartment from February of 2022 until what you say in your answer is June of 2022, when for some reason you were looking through his phone. Now, you were looking through his phone because he was acting weird or whatever.
Yes.
That's June of 2022. You understand where I'm going, Miss Christian, don't you? Of course you do. So from February of 2022, February, March, April, May, for 4.5 months, Mr. Henry and you occupied the same residence.
No, ma'am.
Your residence.
No, ma'am.
Well, that's what you say.
No, ma'am.
Oh. Well.
He lived in his own apartment in Merritt Island. When we got back together.
Here we go. On February 15th, 2022, he contacted me and we got back together. He had his own place and never lived with me again. He would stay over occasionally and bring a few things to make himself comfortable. On June 21st, I went through his phone because he was acting weird. Where was he when you went through his phone?
He was asleep.
He was asleep where?
In my bed.
Okay. In the apartment?
Yes, I work at 6 o'clock.
In the apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course, yes, ma'am. And I saw that he was setting up a date with the mother of his child.
Yes, ma'am.
I got upset, dropped off my son, and then came back home while he was packing. He told me he was taking my couch, TV, dresser, dining table, and everything in my apartment. So my next question to you is, who paid for the couch?
Me.
I'd like to see a receipt.
I don't have it.
Who paid for the couch?
It was a couple years ago. Sorry.
My brother, Adonis Glover, he's the one that gave me the furniture.
Just a second.
He gave me the couch, the love seat, the lamp, a few other things listed on that document.
When did he give them to you?
He gave it to me before me and Miss Christian moved in the first apartment.
So let's go back. Where was the first place that you lived with the defendant?
Cocoa, Florida.
Okay. From when to when?
From 2020 October to February, March 2021, because that's when her lease was up.
Were you both on the lease in that apartment?
No, I wasn't on that lease.
Just you?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's the first place that you lived together?
Yes.
And why did you leave that place, Mr. Henry?
She was relocating to Titusville. I helped her move into it, and I moved in as well.
Does that sound familiar to you? Be very careful what you say to me, because when I say I read the papers and I have my own preconceived ideas of what this case is about based upon 50 years worth of experience, be very careful what you say to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Does that sound familiar to you?
No, ma'am, he is lying.
He is lying about what?
Adonis did not give him that furniture. Furniture was given to me, never was given.
Just a second. So we're not talking about the furniture now. We're talking about when you lived together.
Okay.
You first lived someplace together and then moved into another place.
Yes, ma'am.
So that sounds familiar. Am I correct that this is all about furniture?
No.
Mr. Henry, value of property. She's not paying you for property, for furniture that was given to you that was secondhand. You have to understand that. If I find that it's your furniture, you're going to go and get it.
Yes, that's what I was hoping.
Just a second. You're going to go and get it.
Yes.
If you can establish to me that it's your furniture, you can keep it. You're not a married couple. I have a couple of issues with some things that I think that you did, because I actually think that you were together and he was packing his things, but then the police were called and you told the police that he didn't live there. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because...
And just a second. And that wasn't true.
It is true.
Tell me where he was living.
He was living in Merritt Island. Okay. Whenever we broke up in October, from October to February, we broke up. He reached out to me the day after Valentine's Day. We started talking. He was buying me gifts to try to get back in my good graces. He was doing all this extra stuff to try to get back in my good graces. We got back together. He never did move back in with me. He always did live in his apartment in Merritt Island. I work at 6 o'clock in the morning till 12 p.m. Sometimes whenever I didn't have a babysitter, he doesn't have a job, he would watch my son. That's why he had a key. That's why he had to spend the night bag and all of that. He would bring over his clothes, shoes, PlayStation, anything to make himself comfortable to stay the night. And whenever the police were called, they made him collect all of those belongings and leave. They escorted him off the property, told him that he was not allowed back. They told me that
well, that's because if that's what's happened, that's because they believe you, which I don't.
Okay. They definitely...
That's because they believe you, and I don't, because if he was trying to get back in your graces and he was living in his own space and you weren't back together again, why in the world were you going through his phone? If you were just a casual gal, and a casual gal doesn't let him stay with her son because, well, he was available and he wasn't working, so he watched my son and he stayed over. That all sounds like a whole lot of Who Shot John. And it was convenient for you to be able to say he doesn't live here. So all I want to know, Miss Christian, is this case is mostly about furniture, used furniture.
I also have a TV there.
Do you have the receipt for it?
Yes, I have a title.
I'd like to see it. You have a TV in the house that belongs to him?
So the TV was...
Just a second. That's either yes or no.
No, the TV does not belong to him.
Who does it belong to?
The TV was a gift from him to me that I ended up paying off because he told me that when he bought it that it was bought cash. Whenever months later, I paid the TV off.
No, you didn't.
Just shh. First, you're going to show me that you paid it off. I assume you have proof that you paid it off?
I paid him cash for it because I did not think that we were ever going to break up.
Well, you never thought you were going to break up. I thought he didn't live with you. I thought he didn't live with you. You don't buy TV for somebody that you don't live with, that you're not going to watch all the time.
Eventually thought we were going to move into a house together, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
Oh, don't tell me what you thought.
The TV that was bought was before I even.
Okay.
It had nothing.
That's a PlayStation and
That's
Nintendo.
still property that's still at the apartment.
Okay. These are things that you say are yours.
Yes.
That you bought and paid for.
Yes.
Okay. All of these receipts.
All of it. No help.
Okay, so let's go beyond the point of now you're back together again, because that's what I believe. He's in bed, you're going through his phone, you find he's making a date with the mother of his child, you get annoyed, you take your son to another location because you know that there's going to be an argument. You come back, there is an argument,
Yes.
He wants to take stuff, whatever, police are called, you tell the police he doesn't live there, they escort him out. He wants his property now. You're not married people. Whoever paid for the property or whoever was the recipient of a gift for the property owns the property. That's simple. You know, that's what the law is.
Raheem Henry claims his ex-girlfriend, Erica Christian, owes for personal property. Erica is countersuing for door damages and stolen property.
Okay, he has a Nintendo, a PlayStation, Sony.
Your Honor, he collected those whenever
Just a second. A queen mattress and foundation. And we have May of 2022. This is a TV, an LED TV.
Yes. That was my birthday present.
Nah.
What?
Okay, so I have titles to these things. Do you have titles or receipts for any of these things?
I don't have receipts for any of those things. He grabbed his PlayStation, his Switch, and everything whenever he left. The only thing that is in my apartment is the TV that he bought me for my birthday. May is my birthday. May 7th is my birthday. That was my birthday present that he bought for me.
Did you take your Nintendo?
No.
Did
you? I haven't had. Recently, that was something different. My storage unit was just broken into. This is why I don't have original documents. And she stole more of my property.
I don't know that. Did you file a police report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did they ever find any of the property?
No,
Perhaps?
not right now.
Okay. The couch, whatever other furniture is there, is how old? I mean, it used to be used furniture, so it was.
Yeah, my brother Donis got it when he paid for it. It was like a kind of like a bundle deal for the apartment, like a lot of furnishing, and I ended up giving him some money for looking out.
That was 2-3 years ago?
Yeah.
And it was used furniture at the time?
Yeah. It wasn't nothing like brand new out of the seal.
How much did you pay for the TV?
I got taxed when I was like at $15, almost to $2,000, because it's a 60-inch smart TV.
Okay. So what is it that you want, is my question.
I want a court order to go get the rest of my property.
What? I have to know what the rest of your property is.
Yes.
You have the TV.
The TV, I have asthma medication, I have plantar fasciitis.
I want to tell you something. She threw out your asthma medication.
I believe so, too.
She threw out your asthma medication.
Yeah.
What else?
I have crutches. I have.
You have what?
Crutches and certain things. I have
you don't,
PlayStation.
Look, you don't need crutches. And the PlayStation you said was in the storage unit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not interested in the storage unit. So far, I have a TV. What else?
My mattress, my bed, my
you don't
stuff
want
that I had
you don't
from
want
the
that.
apartment.
You don't want a mattress. Are you back with this lady now?
No.
Where are you living?
I've been living on the streets. I've been living out of my car ever since this been happening.
Where are you going to put a mattress?
I have a storage unit that I was going to just collect. I'm pretty much just trying to salvage what I can because I have things that's sentimental, stuff from my grandmother passing away, things that I really can't put a price tag on. I just want to be able to get a court order to just get the rest of my belongings.
I don't know what the rest of. I have a TV. You have no place to put a mattress that's a couple of years old. So you really don't need that. I mean, I can give you an order to get your mattress, but what are you going to do with it? It's just going to cost you to go get it and to store it. So you really don't need it.
I don't need it, but I would like to still get all of my property back. Like the stuff that I paid for because I worked hard. I furnished
I'm giving you
apartment.
your TV back. You're going to get the TV. I haven't figured out what else it is that you really want to make this whole thing worthwhile. I'm not giving you any money. Do you want the mattress back? You paid for it. You're entitled to it back. I can give you an order for the mattress and the TV.
Okay. And I also have electronics, like from games to controllers, just so much things that like
TV. Mattress, box spring. He's going to come and get it with a marshal, but he's coming to get it within 5 days from today.
So what if I pull up my bank statements to show that I gave him cash around the same time that whenever it was like pulled up and everything? Because I did give him cash for the TV, for the bed, for actually more than he ever even put into it.
Let me explain something to you. Unless you have a check made out to him, I have a problem with somebody who lies to the police.
Ma'am,
I do. I have trouble with somebody who got very angry because her boyfriend, who was living there, watching her son, brought a TV, bought a mattress, bought a box spring, bought all of those things, and then you got annoyed that he was involved again with his child's mother. You dropped off your son someplace else to come back to have a fight with him. You did have an argument with him. Police were called. You said to the police, he doesn't live here.
Your Honor, he moved out.
He doesn't live here. That's what's here.
Your Honor, I never moved out.
He moved out in
We had a
October.
whole business together.
No, we do not. That business is in my name, and I have the receipts to that, too.
You have to understand something. I know what happened. I don't believe you.
Ma'am, I'm
you
telling
have
you
to.
the truth.
No, you're not. You're not telling me the truth. That when the police came, you said, he doesn't live here.
Yes.
He doesn't live here. Put him outside.
He took all of his belongings.
Did he take his... Oh, no.
May I finish? He took all of his belongings on October 9th. Whenever he left, without a call, without a text message, without anything, he broke up with me and left. He got back in contact with me in February. Mind you, we never lived together after that.
He was just staying over to watch your son when you got angry in June.
Whenever
It was June. It was June, 4.5 months later.
Which he would go back to his apartment. He would come. He never stayed more than a couple nights consecutively.
Okay. He's coming to get his TV. He's coming to get his mattress and box spring.
Can we
You have a
talk about
counterclaim.
my counterclaim?
You have a counterclaim for damage to the front door.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Damage to the front door.
Kicked my front door down.
Okay. When did he do that?
The day after he was police escorted, they told him not to come back, and the next day he came back and kicked my door down right in front of the police officer.
So he came back with a police officer.
And kicked my door down.
Just a second. He came back with a police officer, and the police officer was there when he broke into your apartment.
Yes, and they were going to take him.
No, tell me what they were going to do. And they did nothing.
Well, they trespassed him from my apartment complex.
I'm asking you, what you're telling me is, madam, which is why I have problems with you right from the get-go. What you're telling me now is he came back to get his property. The next day,
He didn't come back
with a police officer.
Yes.
And what you're telling me, a police officer, and what, you live in Florida?
Yes.
What you want me to believe that a police officer saw him kick down your door, go into your apartment, take property, and did nothing. That's what you want me to believe.
He didn't not do anything. He was completely confused on who actually lived there.
You're telling me a police officer was confused.
I'm telling you the truth. They were very confused on who actually lived there.
Bring me just a second.
They were trying to figure out if it was my apartment, his apartment. I had to go get my property manager, bring my lease that only had my name on it.
You don't understand. The last place you lived with him full-time, your name was on the lease too. Only yours.
Correct.
And you lived together. So now you took his lease again, just in your name, and said, he's not on the lease, he doesn't live here.
We broke up, though.
Okay. All right. He's coming to get his TV. He's coming to get his mattress.
Okay.
And I would like to see a police report. I would like to see.
I also have an iPad.
Just a
that-
second.
Okay.
You're done. You're going to get your TV, your mattress, and your box spring.
Has accused his ex-girlfriend, Erica Christian, of keeping his personal property. Erica claims he broke through her door and stole her belongings.
Now.
Yes, ma'am. I have my Chromebook, my iPad, my office supplies, things that were stolen from my company that whenever he kicked my door down and took things out of my apartment that day.
Okay. Now, let's get to the company. What kind of work were you involved with when you and the defendant lived together, Mr. Henry?
I did all the graphic design. I made the business cards.
Just a second. Were you involved in graphic design?
Yes. I actually went.
Just a second. Together?
No. It was mainly me.
And you did this over a computer, over a laptop?
Over a tablet, over my iPad.
So the business supplies that she's going to tell me about were for the graphic design business?
Yes. Some
You
of the
said-
supplies, but I never stole anything. I just had an iPad that I worked on, and I did graphic design on that was mine. I gave her cash for it. She found it on Amazon for me for a good deal. I was able to draw on it. She's never had access to it. There's always been my Apple ID on it.
Where is it?
I don't know. The day when I got escorted out, she came out of the apartment. I was going in to get the rest of my belongings, and she was saying, "I can't find my iPad. You have it." And I right then and there, I knew she found it and she took it and hid it. So the officer let me go inside to get my belongings. I looked in the closet where I had it wrapped up, gone. I walked outside and was like, "Erica, where's my iPad? I paid for that. I do work on it. That is mine." She said, "I don't know. It's gone. You must have it." Had this whole sob story about it. So still to this day, I have no idea.
Okay. What else?
My iPad that he stole the day that he broke into my apartment. My Chromebook that he stole the day that he broke into
Your what?
My Chromebook, my laptop.
What else?
I have my printer that he stole. It's all right here, 600. Do you want me to just pass it to you?
Did you take a printer?
I'm so sorry.
I wasn't able to leave with anything because they made me have to go through a civil suit because she started claiming stuff and saying it was hers and it wasn't mine. So the officer didn't even let me go back inside the apartment.
I want to know when you went in the presence of a police officer, whether you pushed down the door, kicked down the door or not. Unless I have a police report, I don't actually believe that the police officer...
He was my escort. I
Just a
actually
second.
met him.
Did you take any electronics with you when you left?
I didn't leave with anything.
Okay, just don't give me a whole bunch of papers. What I'd like to see is a police report or any other documentation that he took anything the day after you had him evicted from the apartment where he was living.
She didn't even have me evicted.
I have the receipts of the stuff that he stole.
He said he didn't take anything. He said the police officer was there, wouldn't let him take a printer. I mean, those are heavy electronics. Yeah. And that was the only other time he was in the apartment.
He also checked my car.
No, he didn't.
Unless you have some sort of a police report for me, Miss Christian, I don't believe you. I think that you were really angry. I think that you were really angry because he left in October. You took him back in February. You found out that he was not being straight up front with you, and you were dishonest with the police, which is all part of being angry and felt that you were being taken advantage of. According to you, you was together so much so that he bought you a television set a month before you threw him out for your birthday that cost thousands of dollars. That's what you just told me.
Ma'am, he bought that TV in February for me for an early birthday present. He bought it for an early birthday present and told me...
He's coming to get, listen to me, he's coming to get his TV, he's coming to get his box spring, he's coming to get his mattress. It's a court order. It's a court order with a marshal in 5 days from today. Do you understand?
I also have
5 days from
my
today.
Countersuit, my false police reports, the false injunction, everything that he did.
I have to tell you something. The same way that I'm not entertaining because it's over, this fib that you told to the police, which caused him to be... don't interrupt me. I'm not entertaining. You filed restraining orders against each other?
She filed...
Just a second. You filed restraining orders against each other. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a restraining order against her?
Yes, but it was dismissed.
I said, do you have one currently? The answer is no.
No.
Do you have a restraining order against him?
No, ma'am.
Good. It's exactly what I thought. Because neither one of you have to say goodbye. You have to stop being angry, but you have to give him back his property.
I only wanted the restraining
TV, mattress, box spring, 5 days from today. Counterclaims dismissed. We're finished with this case. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I think that it was unfair.
I'm pretty much just happy it's all over.
Broke up with me without even a text message, a phone call, nothing.
She just took it and ran with it, and she decided she was going to take matters into her own hands and be spiteful.
Very single. No more relationships for a while.
It's definitely time to move forward, move past it.
The good one is out there, but I have not found him yet.
It's just nice that at least it's over. It's a weight lifted off my shoulders.
I sort of felt sorry for him. He probably deserved some of it, but you can't lie to the police.
I think she was being vindictive by saying he doesn't live here. He doesn't live here. He sort of kind of lives here if you're being truthful. But it's always a good idea to have your name on the lease if you can, because that's all the officer has to look at in a squabble like what happened between them.
Yeah, it's almost between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
If your name is not on the lease, you're not responsible for the rent.
Yep.
And I've usually suggested that when you're living together, you don't have both people's name on the lease, because in the event that you separate, who's going to stay in the apartment? And if you're the one who leaves, your former partner may say to you, don't worry, you leave, I'll take over the rent. But if they don't, you're still on the hook with the landlord. So
there's pros and cons to both.
To both, but it's an exit strategy.
Yeah.
And people have to be smart enough. You see, he had an exit strategy. His name wasn't on the lease, but then he needed it. But I think she was being dishonest, and I think his brother did, in fact, give him some old furniture. Who cares about that? It's from decades ago.
You only stay a few nights. You're not bringing your furniture.
Your couch, your TV, yeah. Anyway, they just have to get over it and move on.
Put a period.
Now, put a period. Now he has his TV.
John and Cynthia Frazee are suing John's former client, Cynthia Booth, and her fiancé, Dwayne Burnley, for posting damaging reviews.
Court come to order. All rise.
Seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2079, Frazee versus Burley Booth.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Frazee, you are an electrician by trade.
Correct.
And how long have you been in that business, sir?
Since 1986 as a license and 1978 as an electrician.
Now, maybe a decade ago, you're going to give me the exact year, month and year. You were called to do a job for this lady. Your last name is?
Booth.
Miss Booth. And you did an electrical job for her. We'll go into it more fully in a minute. When you were doing that job, you brought in a helper. This gentleman whose name is Mr. Burnley.
That's correct.
And before you brought in Mr. Burnley, I gather from the papers, Mr. Burnley did not know Miss Booth. Would that be a fair statement?
That's a fair statement, but he did not bring me in. I was actually just driving down the street, and I'm new to the mountain, and I drove by and saw Mr. Frazee there, and I was...
Listen, this is not Gone with the Wind. This is not War and Peace. I asked you a simple question. Before you were brought in on the job, you didn't know Miss Booth.
That's correct.
Right. And that was about 10 years ago.
Correct.
Since that time, since you were brought in on the job, you and Miss Booth have gotten to know each other a lot better.
Correct.
And I assume that by a lot better, that the two of you live together.
Correct.
And you've been living together for how long?
Since November.
Of this last year,
yes.
November of 2021. But prior to that, you were social friends.
Correct.
And that social friendship started when first introduced to her at this job. It's the first time you met her.
Oh, that's the first time I met her, correct.
Correct. This is your problem, and this is the nature of your lawsuit. You allege that you did a job for Miss Booth almost a decade ago, and you came to ascertain that Miss Booth and or Mr. Burnley had written some negative reviews about your company, currently wrote negative reviews about your company based on work that you did 10 years ago.
Yes.
That's your complaint. And you asked them to take them down. First they did, then they didn't. You found other ones posted in different areas. Now, Mr. Burnley, are you a working man, sir?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm an electrical contractor in
Okay. Now, at the time that you first met Mr. Frazee, did you have your own company?
Yes.
You had your own company?
Yes.
In what year did you do Miss Booth's job?
I did it on April 30th, 2013, Your Honor.
That's not correct.
That's not correct.
Shh. Month and year, you say you did the job.
The job was done on May 9th of 2013.
Okay, so we're off by a month. Is that right? I don't care. You were talking about 9 years ago.
Correct.
Now, tell me something about the job. What was the nature of the electrical job that you were doing?
An older home needs to have at least a minimum of a 100 amp service. Ms. Booth's home had a 70 amp service at the time. She was purchasing it, and that came up on the inspection report to replace that, which I was engaged to do.
So far correct?
No.
Well, now I'll have your version. Did you have to upgrade the electric?
I had to upgrade due to a homeowner's insurance.
Okay,
that's what they required.
What's the difference in what he said? He said that you had to have your electricity upgraded, and it came up in the inspection report.
It did not come in an inspection report.
Well, then how did they find out? Who found out about it?
With my policy.
What do you mean you were honest with your policy?
Well, they asked me what year the house was and what amperage it had, and I said 75.
And your insurance company said to you it has to be 110.
100.
Or 100.
Yes.
Before you could move into the house, for one reason or another, you had to upgrade the electric.
Correct.
Okay, and you hired Mr. Frazee to do that.
Yes, they were my friends.
I don't care whether he was your friend or not. If he was your friend and he was a vet, you wouldn't have hired him to do your electrical work.
Of course
He was
not.
your friend and he was an electrical contractor.
Right, correct.
And when he came to your house to look at the job, did he come alone or with a helper?
Alone.
Once you change the ampage in a house, do you have to get somebody from either the county or the city where you live to sign off on it? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
And once Mr. Frazee did that, modified the ampage, did you have an inspection?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have that inspection?
Yes.
I'd like to take a look at it.
And the job was not...
I didn't ask you anything.
That also includes Mr. Burnley's inspection.
Just a second.
I'm sorry.
Don't volunteer. I'm old. I get confused. I try to keep these things very linear, so even I understand them. This is the inspection sign-off on the work that you did in 2013. Have you seen it? Yes, of course you have.
No.
Well, show it to them. You do remember that you had to have an inspection afterwards.
Of course.
Ms. Booth.
Of course.
Okay, it's just common sense. If you didn't have the work done and you said to your insurance company, I had the work done, the insurance company would say to you, show me proof that you had the work done, otherwise we're not giving you insurance.
Correct.
So you know you had an inspection after he completed the work.
It wasn't after the work.
The work was never...
Shh. I didn't ask you anything.
Okay.
But I will answer for you.
She wasn't...
You can.
Okay.
You can. So the insurance company accepted your word that the work was done?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have that back, please?
And I did tell them I had it signed off, but it was signed off when the job was half done.
That's your problem. You want to sign off when something's half done? Fine. I wouldn't sign off when my hair was half dry.
John's former client, Cynthia Booth, and her fiancé, Dwayne Burnley, slandered their business. Dwayne is countersuing for filing a wrongful lawsuit.
Now, my next question to you is, after 2013, did you perform electrical work for Miss Booth in her house? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
Now I'm going to ask you, what was the nature?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't remember.
You mean, just a second, you remember the work that you did when Mr. Frazee was there in 2013, when you were with him, but you don't remember the nature of the work that you did for your girlfriend in 2018?
I'm pretty sure it was a panel upgrade.
Just a second. I want you to think. What kind of work did you do for Miss Booth in 2018?
It must have been the panel upgrade that I did at her house. I changed the 100 amp out to a 200.
Sure, look at me.
Because that would be...
Look at me.
I'm sorry.
So you changed the 100 amp. Shh. This is not my strong suit, and I have to tell you something. Of the 100 million people who are watching this, they're going out to get a cup of coffee right now. You changed the 100 amp that he had done in 2013 to a 200 amp. You upgraded it in 2018.
And put a surge protection system
And
in
a
her
surge
house.
protection.
Yeah, now I do recall.
Great. When was the first negative review that you can show me written about your company? Now we got what's going on. Now I have it clear. Do you have it clear?
I think a little bit more fuzzy than you, but clear enough.
Do you have it clear?
I have it clear now.
You have it clear? Well, just to make it crystal clear, Mr. Frazee did work at Miss Booth's home in 2013. It was electrical work. It was electrical work performed by him with the help of Mr. Burnley, because in order to get a homeowner's policy on her new house, she had to upgrade to satisfy, according to you, only insurance.
Correct.
That's what you say, from 70 to 100 amps.
Yes.
Look, this whole new thing at my age, I'm learning. Now, evidently, they liked what they saw in 2013, and that materialized into a romance. Good for you. And in 2018, I assume he was living there?
No.
When did he move in?
November of...
Shh.
November
of last year.
Yes.
Okay. But you were dating in 2018?
Yes.
Yes. In 2018, Mr. Burnley, not with the help of the plaintiff, replaced and upgraded the 100 amp to 200 amp, which is much better because I know that I have 200. That's, you have to plug things in. It's 110, 220, right?
Yeah.
110, 220. And he put in a surge protector. Now, even I know what a surge protector is. Correct me if I'm mistaken. That means if there's an overload, a lightning strike, whatever it is, it protects it so the whole board doesn't fry and everything turns off, and then you have to replace all the wires go zzz. Am I right? Right. So he upgraded the system and touch of necessity what Mr. Frazee did in 2013. No question, had to do that. Now I'd like to see the negative reviews and when they started.
The first one we found was in 2019, Your Honor.
Well, are these in order? This was...
That's the most current one that was in February of 2022.
Did you write this? Frazee Electric, he was supposed to do a panel change and never put rods in and fried my electronics in my home and garage opener. Left such a mess and never cleans up.
That's correct.
Did you write that?
Yes, I did.
When? In what year?
It's about 3 years ago.
3 years ago, 2018.
Approximately.
About when he changed the electrical
Yes,
system. Just a second. Okay. About when he changed the electrical system. All right, then you wrote something. I will not even write this company 1 star due to the unprofessionalism in completion of work. Hired this electrician to do a 100-watt panel, never grounded, never finished, and left a mess. He's known for not cleaning up. Had to hire another electrical contractor that was most professional. Now, when did you write that review?
About the same time.
2018?
Yes, on a different review.
That was a different one. And you said that you had to hire another electrical contractor.
Yes, I
to
did.
finish the job. And who was that?
That was DMB Electric.
That was him?
Yes, I called
Just a second.
2 competitors.
Just a second. In what year did you call them?
Oh, this was...
No, in what year did you call him?
2013.
After he left, you called them?
I called 2 other contractors.
Just a second. Did you end up using Mr. Burnley?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So back in 2013, you were dissatisfied with this company.
Yes.
Let me follow this. 2013, you were dissatisfied with the company. You called another company.
2 other.
Just a second. You called another company, but the county had signed off on your job.
Yes.
What you say in your answer is that they signed off erroneously on the job. Well,
yes.
I have to take at face value they're signing off that the job was completed. And I assume you got your homeowner's insurance.
Yes, I did.
After he left and after you had the county sign off.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But they...
Now, just a second. Now, don't tell me a but.
No.
Now, 5 years later, because this was written in 2018.
Correct.
5 years later, you're now dating Mr. Burnley.
Correct.
Who's now living with you.
No.
Who had, well, you say you moved in 2021.
Oh, 21.
Yes.
Yeah, who's now living with you. You began dating in 2018.
That's correct.
And Mr. Burnley, who is now living with you, and in 2018, you woke up one morning and said, who now has his own electrical company, woke up and said, 5 years ago, Mr. Frazee's company and he did not do a professional job in my panel. And now we're dating. And now all these negative reviews come, not in 2013 when we, Sarah, you have Yelp and all those things in 2013?
I'm not sure if I can get back that far, but I could search.
And I wasn't aware of Yelp.
I don't care what you were aware of.
Okay.
You mean you woke up in 2019 and found out that you could give a star or a review? That's the first time you found that out? I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Well, it's
I just want to tell you something. I don't believe you. I don't believe that when you want to go to a restaurant, Miss Booth, and it's a new restaurant, you don't take a look on your computer and say, I wonder how many stars it got. I wonder if there are any reviews on this resort.
Yes.
Well, then you were smart enough to do this.
My sons are in IT, so they
I want to tell you something. I don't believe you.
Okay.
Because I'm older than you are. And I know about this, and she can tell you I'm an idiot on the machine.
Well,
I don't buy it. And I don't buy, actually. Yeah, it is.
I can't see any of the reviews.
No.
But there are reviews on Yelp of his business that all are very positive.
I have them if you'd like to see them.
I will look
and
at them.
I have negative reviews that says the exact same thing what Cindy posted.
Just a second. You don't understand what I'm saying to you, Mr. Burnley. I'm saying to you that it was nasty and malicious, because if she was unhappy with the service, it would have been posted in 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17. And it wasn't until the two of you were hoochie-coochieing that all of a sudden we got negative reviews about a job they did 9 years before. That's ridiculous. It's mean-spirited. All those positive reviews that you posted, did any of them have to do with people that you're sleeping with? That's a question.
No,
No,
of course not.
Of course not.
I'm not that kind of girl.
I don't know what you do in your house,
You're
but
right.
this is my house now. You're not going to bring this drama in my courtroom. You put your entire lives on social media. And at the end of the day, Snapchat did you in.
Electrician John Frazee has accused his former client, Cynthia Booth, of posting damaging reviews years after the job was completed.
It's mean-spirited.
That's not correct.
Just a sec. You say it's not correct.
Well, I'm
I'm
just
looking
saying-
at the timeline. I'm looking at an inspector's report.
Right.
Who is a disinterested party, who signed off on an electrical work. I'm listening to Mr. Burnley, who 5 years later did work that replaced his work from 100 amps to 200 amps with a surge protector, and all of a sudden, you start writing negative reviews about their company. That's the timeline. And if you want to try to fill me in and make me feel as if I made a mistake, I'll give you 30 seconds to do it.
Okay. Yes, we started seeing each other in 2014. And my sons are in IT administration, and they had told me, Mom, you don't know
Don't
about
tell me what
Yelp?"
your sons, don't tell me what your sons
Okay,
told
I
you.
didn't know about Yelp or Google reviews back at that time because I'm not computer savvy.
You want to know something? I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I'm almost 80 years old, a lot older than you are. And I know that if I want to look something up, which I do occasionally, I look something up and I say, did so-and-so eat at this fish restaurant? It's a new place, it's a new town. I'm going to go there and take a look at it. I know how to do that.
I know.
And I'm an idiot, and I'm an idiot. And if you just found it out, if you just found out
I'm
how to
old
do it,
school.
then there was no reason for your first review to be about his company.
No.
About a job that
There's
was done.
91 other reviews I've posted.
Just a second. Positive or negative?
Positive.
Are you sleeping with any other electrician?
No, I'm not.
Just a second. That's the end. All those positive reviews that you posted, did any of them have to do with people that you're sleeping with? That's a question.
No,
No,
of course not.
Of course not.
I'm not that kind of girl.
What I'm telling you is the timeline doesn't make sense. These nasty reviews written about a job that started 9 years before, in this case, 6 years before, now that you are sleeping with a head of an electrical company, don't make sense. And my nose tells me if it doesn't make sense, it's not true. Now, when you came back a month later, what else did you do?
That's it.
Didn't
At that
clean up a
time.
mess.
At
Just a
that
second.
time.
Didn't clean up a mess.
Yes, I cleaned up the mess.
You cleaned up what
My
mess?
mess. He
Oh, your
doesn't
mess.
clean up his mess.
Well, you didn't. That's what she told you.
No, I have other reviews of other people on the internet that posted that.
I'm asking you a question. You didn't clean up his mess.
I didn't clean up his mess. I
Right.
misunderstood you.
Okay, well, that's what I said.
sorry.
You didn't clean up his mess
No, I cleaned up his mess.
and didn't write a review.
Well, I didn't know about Yelp.
I'm telling you, you can say it until the cows come home.
not
I don't
true, Your
believe
Honor.
you. I don't believe you. And I don't believe that the first year that you found out to write a review is when you and Mr. Burnley started a relationship. I just don't believe it.
No.
And I think it's mean-spirited. You have to know, Miss Booth, I think it's mean-spirited.
But we were seeing each other in 2014.
You were seeing each other in 2014. You have a company, sir?
Yes, I
Do you
do.
have a company?
Yes.
Are you licensed?
Yes.
What's the name of your company?
DMB Electric Inc.
Just would you take a look at that, Sarah?
It'll be under DMB Electric Services Inc.
And in what year was your company formed?
This
She's-
one, this
this-
one's 2013.
He had a prior
I had a prior one.
2013.
Yes, Your Honor.
Was that before or after you did her job with him?
The
Before or
license-
after?
I had the license before.
No, the company. I said, was the
Yes,
company
the company
formed?
was established.
Careful, because she's a whiz with the computer.
No, that's good.
Was your company formed before?
Yes, Your Honor.
Before you did the job with him?
Yes.
Okay, in what month in 2013?
I don't know.
Are you
what date.
guessing?
Yeah, I'm going
Are
to
you
guess
guessing?
January. Yes.
Was it before or after you did the job with the plaintiff? If you don't know the answer, say, I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Okay, now.
The business was incorporated March 20th of 2013.
Does it have any reviews?
Only 4 from the past 2 years on Yelp, all positive.
By the way, did you ever write a review for him? Did you ever write a review for Mr. Burnley's company? Is not an answer. Did you ever write a review for Mr. Burnley's company? Stop shaking your head, Mr. Burnley. Did you ever write a review for Mr. Burnley's company?
No.
Okay. I don't know what it is that you didn't understand. Sir, you didn't say much. You don't have to say much. I got what went on here, and I think it was mean-spirited, and you're suing for $10,000.
Yes, Your
I
Honor.
think that their reviews and the abuse of the critique of your business warrants the award of $10,000. You have a counterclaim. Which one of you has a counterclaim?
I do.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something. Your counterclaim's dismissed. I think that you were a co-conspirator in her writing these reviews.
Not.
Counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. We're finished here. Thank you very much.
Your Honor.
This court
We're
is
done.
adjourned.
During the COVID shutdown, when nobody had any work in a small community of 5,500 people, that's what they chose to do.
Hey, I'm glad it's behind me, man. That's all I can say.
He was just getting his license, and I helped him begin his business, and this is how he serves me.
I agree with the judgment, but why $10,000? That seemed a little high for me.
You can permanently hurt somebody's business, their livelihood, if you write a negative review. Because people more and more rely on the internet when they seek a service, rely on somebody else to say, I've had a good experience or I've had a bad experience. I believe, based upon the timeline that we heard, that the defendants wrote these reviews for a reason other than bad electrical work. Because if there was bad electrical work, that would have shown itself between 2013 and 2018 when her fiance redid the whole system.
Or it wouldn't have passed the inspection.
Or it wouldn't have passed the inspection. So that, to me, is malicious. I think you have to get a real wake-up call. And to me, $500 doesn't do it. It's malicious, and I don't think he has to show any real damages other than the reputation of his business has been sullied by someone for malicious reasons having nothing to do with work that was performed 9 years before. And I'm perfectly comfortable with that.
Is suing her client, Danny Velasquez, for dance class fees.
Court coming to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2086, Renner versus Velasquez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Renner, you run a dance studio.
I do.
How long have you had it?
30 years.
And what age children do you teach?
We have a Mommy and Me class, which starts at 18 months, and our oldest student is 19 years old.
And Miss Velasquez has a daughter. And she was at your school during what period of time?
She started in June of 2020, and she quit in June of this year.
Your lawsuit is simple. You claim that Miss Velasquez owes you money for her daughter's dance lessons.
Yes.
The defendant actually disavows owing you any money. She said that you actually behaved in a mean-spirited way in not allowing her daughter to finish her recital. So I'm trying to think back to my days when I was 6 and 7. And if I remember correctly, the name of the school that I went to, and I know that this is not something that everybody is breathless to hear about, but I haven't had one of these cases. And I was thinking back to Miss Nottage, who had a dancing school in her home on Parkside Avenue in Brooklyn. And I do remember that you took classes I took toe, tap, ballet, and acrobatics, which was not my strong suit. Any of them, none of them were my strong suit. Father always said that I should sue the city because they built the sidewalk too close to my behind because my legs are short. So being a ballerina was really not physically possible for me, but in my mind, I thought I was a ballerina. Anyway, as do most little girls, I assume. So you worked during the year, and at the end of the year of your dance class, I remember you gave a recital. Everybody got all excited and dressed for the recital. I assume that's what happens in your class. Yes, that's a yes.
Yes.
Did you have a contract with Miss Velasquez?
I have a registration form which acknowledges receipt of studio policies.
Well, policies is not a contract, but I'll take a look at it anyway. The question is, do you have a signed contract with her?
No.
Okay. May I take a look at that? According to these policies, which are not a written contract because she has not signed this document in particular, you say you acknowledge receipt of it. What it mostly is tell them what the instructions are and give you a release of liability. It does indicate here that full tuition is due on the first class of each month. And how much was the tuition for Miss Velasquez's daughter?
From January through June, it was $170 a month. And then from September through December, it was $165 a month.
Okay, so around $170 a month. And I assume she was current on her tuition in 2020. And in 2020, did Miss Velasquez make her payments on the first of each month?
Well, I can't say exactly on the first, but yes, it was always current, which is why.
That's not what I asked you. Was it made pursuant to your policies here on the first of each month?
I don't know. I don't remember specifically.
What about in 2021? Were her payments made on the first of each month?
No.
When did she stop making payments in 2021 on the first of each month?
Well, I have emailed spreadsheets here, and so starting in December, she asked me if she could make small payments, increments throughout the month because she was a single mother and wasn't able to make the full payment on the first.
So you said yes, that she could make payments incrementally. Mm-hmm. And do you have that same arrangement with some other parents?
I do.
How many other parents do you have that arrangement with?
Well, anybody who asks in...
How many? You run the school.
5.
How many students do you have?
5.
Okay. So you have that arrangement with this mother plus 5? Mm-hmm. And that is inconsistent with your policies.
Yes.
That would be a yes. Now, tell me what happened, Miss Velasquez, that caused you to fall behind in your payments. You acknowledge you fell behind in your payments.
Yes, I do.
When did you fall behind in your payments?
I asked Ms. Renner if I could start making payments in September of 2021, which I have written as well, if you would like to see that. And in October, I didn't pay anything because my father passed away. And I explained that to her, and then I made up for it in November through payments, and I just continued to pay as I could with being a single mom.
Well, that's not a reason to not pay her, being a single mom, as you could. You understand that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm sure you're doing the best you can. You're trying to give your little girl, how old is she?
9.
9. Trying to give her the best possible experience. It's all wonderful, but this is her business. And if you owe her money, then you owe her money. Mm-hmm. Since the policies are honored and sometimes not, there was one part of your policy, even though that this is the contract that I actually find ridiculous, because in your lawsuit, you claim you're owed $946 and $7,169.76 interest. That's not happening. And it's not happening. You gave me an easy out because you really don't enforce your own policies.
Sometimes I try to be kind to people who
and I try to be kind too. Being kind is not suing somebody for $900 and suing them for $9,000. That's not being kind, because there's no question that you agree that you owe her some money.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's an unconscionable. Even if there was a contract for it, I would probably find it an unconscionable piece for somebody who owes you less than $1,000 and you want $7,200 because it includes interest. I find that ridiculous. How many students were in Miss Velasquez's class?
Approximately 18.
When you say approximately 18, the number varied based on what?
Well, my memory, it was either 18 or 19 children. I don't remember how many. That's a very large class.
Are you the sole teacher?
Well, I do the ballet, and I have a teacher who teaches the jazz class.
Your daughter takes ballet or jazz, or both?
Yeah.
Your daughter stopped going to school when?
May 17th.
Tell me the circumstances.
That was when I got a ledger from the studio that said that I owed $965. And my math was thinking I was closer to like $360. So I kept messaging and asking where the confusion was. And I didn't get a response until May 27th.
That said what?
That said I owed $1,300. And this was from Miss Jenny.
And that was for late fees? What was it for?
The dance team and the costumes for the recital that was coming up.
Okay. Well, do you have a ledger and I'd like to see your ledger. So far, I have, according to you, what you owe, because you did a breakdown of what you owe. It is your claim that you owe $846, correct?
Yep.
And she says you owe $946. That's without the interest and the late fees.
Yeah.
So you are actually, based upon raw numbers, $100 apart.
I have an email from her stating that she owes $947.
I'd like to see it, please.
And later today, claims her client, Danny Velasquez, owes for dance class fees.
Okay, so in this email, you acknowledge owing $586 and then $360 for team. What is team?
They did like competition teams that I allowed my daughter to be on. Before I let her audition, I made sure that Jenny was okay with my payments, and I sent it all in.
No, I'm just reading the email, which seems to acknowledge that you owed her $947.
Yeah, so the team portion was $361, which is what I thought was owed.
No, you said team, and your regular tuition said that I owed $1,301 when I only owed $586. So $586 and $361 and $947.
You're correct. I just couldn't get any accurate numbers.
I'm taking your numbers that you acknowledge.
Right. First she said it was $1,647 I owed, then she said $1,400.
Right now I have, she says amount owed $946. You said it was $947. So let's say it's $947. And that's without late fees and without interest. So you would consider that a fair number.
Yeah.
And Ms. Rayner, you would consider that a fair number?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I think it was fair. I just wish that my daughter would have been able to dance.
Money was due to me, and she was not paying.
I had to go in and be the one that broke her heart.
She argued with every statement we sent her.
We've already found a new studio, and it's amazing.
Pay your bills.
It's a big blessing in disguise that my daughter's not with Jenny anymore.
I'm sure you were a great dancer back in your day. Maybe ballet now isn't for you, but I'm sure you were the cutest one in the class. But I do think it was unconscionable for the owner of the dance studio to agree that the mother only owed around $900, and she wanted to have this court pay her almost $9,000 in late fees and interest. I mean, I think it's just unconscionable.
It was a good shot. You know, usually when you do a contract, a formal contract, contracts usually say if any part of this contract is found to be either unconscionable or illegal, the remainder of the contract remains in full force and effect. Usually you have something that says that. Well, this was just an acceptance of the school policy, but the school policy clearly was flexible.
It was, and as soon as she said that, I was hoping that she would have drawn up for those 5 or 6 parents that were on a different payment plan. I would have hoped that she, as a business owner, would have drawn up something mimicking a contract with them to show what their agreement was.
Memorialize that agreement.
Because as you said, well, if you're flexible on this point and that point, why are you not flexible on the interest that you
exactly, which sounded unconscionable.
It did.
Anyway, I really, Sarah, remember those dance classes and crossing Parkside Avenue to go to Miss Nottage's studio. The thing that I remember most about it was the acrobatics class. I swear they had something strung up that looked like a torture chamber. It was strung up from the ceilings and you were put in a harness. You started from one end of the room, and when you got to the minute, she pulled you up on a pulley and you were supposed to do a somersault. And I remember I couldn't get off the ground. My little chubby legs were
flailing,
and I couldn't get my behind over the rest of my body.
Listen, I'm not a dancer either.
Then I started thinking about law school.
Yeah, I think that's a good career path.
Right.
Albert Lee is suing pilot instructor Ed Meyer for damage resulting from Ed moving his plane.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2145, Lee versus Meyer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lee, you are an amateur pilot?
Yes, I was yes.
And you owned your own plane?
I bought it to train in, yes.
When did you purchase the plane?
In, I believe, April of 2021.
Did you buy it new or used?
I bought it used.
What kind of plane is it?
It's a Cirrus SR-22, 2010 type Golf.
What did you pay for it?
I paid $420,000 for it, I believe.
Is there a mortgage on the...
Yes, there is.
How much?
It's $2204. per month.
You paid $425,000 for the plane.
Yeah, I put a down payment on it. The outstanding balance is $347,000. The payment per month is $2,022.
I don't need the payment per month. I just wanted to know what you paid for it and how much you put into the plane.
Yes.
The defendant is a pilot, licensed pilot, and he was giving you some training on the plane.
Certified flight instructor, yes.
It is your claim that at some point, you'll tell me when, that the defendant was operating the plane by himself. You weren't there, and he was moving it from one part of the FBO to another part, and he hit a cone and caused substantial damage to the propeller and the engine. And while you had your insurance did cover some of it, according to you, it did not cover all of the expenses, and you want Mr. Meyer to be responsible for that. So it's a simple question. Mr. Meyer, do you remember the date that you were operating the plane when Mr. Lee was not there?
Yes.
What date?
It was in April sometime.
April of 2022?
Correct.
Do you remember the date, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
What date?
It's April 22nd.
Would that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. And from what I read in the papers, Mr. Meyer had in fact taken you out, but then the weather got bad. You decided that you would make your way home and that he would get the plane home when the weather was better.
Correct.
And that was on or about April 22nd.
I flew home on a commercial flight the day before on April 21st.
And you stayed with the plane.
Yes.
Now, would you agree, Mr. Meyer, that if in fact you hit an object with the plane, it would be your responsibility?
Yes.
Because it would mean that there was some sort of negligence involved.
Right.
And then there would be the issue of damages. Mr. Lee, you were not present when this incident happened.
I was not.
Not present.
I was not present. I was able.
No, you were not present.
I was not present.
That's the answer. Was this witness present?
He was not present, but he was the one responsible for procuring the evidence on what happened and how the propeller was damaged.
Who does he work for?
He has his own flight school, and he also manages my airplane in terms of the maintenance and the upkeep.
Okay. Could you step up, please? Tell me your last name.
Last name is Williams.
Mr. Williams, were you charged with gathering the evidence to determine what happened to the plane on the 22nd of April?
Yes, I was.
And you're paid a monthly fee by the plaintiff to manage his plane.
That's correct.
Did you retain the defendant as an instructor, or did Mr. Lee?
That was both decided by Mr. Lee and Mr. Myers to fly for him.
But you
He's
did
an
not.
independent contractor. At that.
You did not have anything to do with, as the manager of the plane, you didn't have anything to do with selecting Mr. Meyer.
I did select Mr. Meyer to fly with Albert.
You did?
Yes.
Okay. Because were you the one who introduced him
That's
to Mr. Meyer?
That's correct.
When, Mr. Lee, did you start to work with Mr. Meyer?
It was probably a prior flight where we flew to San Francisco for a business meeting I had. After that, I believe it was...
In what month?
Roughly about the same month.
In April?
Yeah, in April.
So you didn't know him for a long time?
No, not very long.
I'm going to get back to you in a minute, Mr. Williams. Prior to the defendant, had anybody else been an instructor for you?
Yes. Clinton was my primary instructor, but I flew with some other instructors as well.
But it wasn't until the month that this incident occurred that you had been connected with the defendant?
Correct.
Okay. Now, sir, how were you advised that the plane that you managed was in an accident?
I received a phone call from Ed saying that there was a problem.
From whom?
From Mr. Myers, that there was a problem with the aircraft after he taxied and did the run-up and returned the aircraft back to Signature in Las Vegas. We notified and contacted a...
Did you ask, what you would usually ask is what happened?
Yeah, what happened?
Just a second, and what did he say to you?
He said that he was having instrument problems with the aircraft and he wasn't able to take off, so he returned the aircraft. At that point in time, I contacted a Cirrus Service Center. I had 2 technicians go out and look at the aircraft, see what was wrong. At the time, the technicians found that they...
Don't tell me what they found.
Okay.
You can't tell me what they found. It's hearsay.
They send me pictures of the damage of the propeller.
May I see the photographs? Okay, so that's a fresh damage.
Correct.
Can I scroll this?
Yes, you may.
Or is it just one? Okay, so you have a picture of that. You have a picture of the cone that has a slice in it.
Correct. That's the object he hit. We also have a video showing the plane taxi and hitting the cone at the
I'd like to see that as well.
Okay.
Okay, let's see what we got.
As you can see where the...
Just one second, Mr. Meyer, is that a fair and accurate representation of where the plane was before you moved it?
It should be on the last, on the far left side of that Learjet.
Okay. Oh. Mr. Meyer, do you see that you went over a cone?
It's interesting. I didn't even notice there was a cone.
You may not notice it, but you see it now.
Yes.
Okay.
Pilot instructor Ed Meyer is responsible for damage after Ed moved Albert's plane.
Okay.
In all of my years of flying, which is pretty significant, I was an airline pilot too, I've never, ever experienced that in my life.
Okay, but you see it now.
Yes.
It's not an on purpose. It's, you know, that's why they call them accidents. We don't mean for them to happen.
Right.
We don't mean for them to happen, but you do see that the plane did hit a cone.
Right.
Okay, and I have photographs of the cone that has a slice in it, and the same kind of slice from one of the propellers. Now, so that's conceded that Mr. Meyer did, in fact, hit the cone, which in all probability caused damage to the plane, caused damage to the propeller. Now, tell me about your insurance.
The insurance covered the propeller. They covered the teardown of the engine. When something strikes the propeller, they have to tear apart the engine, make sure the components...
Do you have those,
I
that
do.
paperwork for me? I'd like to see it.
Okay, so here is the insurance covered portion, and here is my covered portion that I had to come out of pocket to pick up the plane.
Okay.
And I can explain both invoices. And if you flip to the last page, that'll have the total. Insurance covered about 60-something thousand for the propeller and the engine teardown.
Okay, so the damaged propeller, Mr. Williams, causes you to have to take apart the engine, fix the engine if there was damage to the engine. Am I correct?
That's correct. The FAA requires anytime you strike an object with a propeller, the engine has to be inspected in the component parts. So they...
Component parts of the engine?
Of the damage, potential damage of the engine. Internal damage that could be caused by striking an object.
Okay. The insurance covered how much, sir? Mr. Lee?
It's, sorry, it's on the invoice 60, I think it was 63,000, 64,000. It's on the last page.
The last page shows...
Shows a deposit of
$63,000.
Yes, that's it.
The deposit was 40, balance due was 23. Did the insurance company pay the entire 63?
This entire
$63,000. This was what was submitted to them.
Yes.
Okay, now I'd like you to take a look at this, Mr. Meyer. No, I'm going to actually ask Mr. Williams to take a look at this document. These are the items, Mr. Williams, that Mr. Lee says were uncovered. I would like you to go through all those items and tell me which of those items relate to the engine and which do not.
Okay, is this the total?
Carefully, because I'm going to potentially ask you about each individual thing, because there looks to me like some things that bear no relation to an engine.
Okay, so most of the items that you see that are airworthiness on the airframe are the items that need to be inspected or replaced from the teardown. So your item 1, item 2, 3, 4, item 5, 6, 7, 8. These are all items that the repair shop goes through the engine and assesses whether it needs...
Well, tell me how the brakes would be impacted.
I don't think
impacted by hitting the...
Which invoice?
And I don't know, but how brakes would be impacted by hitting a nose cone.
Brake lining, I don't know what that is.
Okay. Yeah, some of these items, Your Honor, such as one of these items, the brake lines, as you pointed out, is probably not part of the...
Well, that's what I want you to go through, sir.
Okay.
Do you understand? I want you to take a marker, a pen, and circle, because I don't know a whole lot about airplanes, but I know a little bit about airplanes. I know what's routine maintenance and what has to be taken care of, because a plane either falls on its nose or falls on its tail, both of which I've experienced.
Well, this is a small invoice. This is not your, this is a 12.
Mr. Williams, don't ask him. I didn't ask you to have a conference with him.
Okay.
I asked
No,
you to look at that. You're the management company. I want you to strike those items that are not related to this accident and go through them very carefully because...
Can I make a comment? Okay.
Nope.
To you directly.
Nope.
Okay.
Can I ask you something?
Can you ask me something?
Yeah. Well, they should tell you those cones are made of plastic.
I don't care. They're heavy cones. You hit the cone. And the plane flew perfectly fine before you hit the cone. It didn't run after you hit the cone. You don't have to be a genius to figure out the cone caused, your hitting of the cone caused damage to that plane. I mean, you're not talking about flying a 747. You're talking about a little this is a single prop plane.
Right.
Yeah. They're like those planes you put together, we used to put together with rubber bands. I wouldn't put my behind in one of those planes for all the money in the world.
The only items I can see, Your Honor, are 2 items that may not be related to the accident, items 7 and 8.
Okay, may I have that back, please, sir? And you are familiar with planes, sir, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're saying is item...
The circled item.
7 and 8.
Correct.
So we have...
There's a couple of...
We have right and left main gear, but which is 143 plus 270 plus 66. What about item 9? Pitch, trim, jab, nut, loose. What is that?
Probably what they do during the inspection and the tear down, they go through the aircraft itself, make sure it's airworthy. So they probably caught another item or 2. You can probably put that on item that's wasn't part of the accident.
The big ticket items, adding up all of these items, Mr. Meyer, that probably have no relation to the accident which you caused.
Correct.
Still bring the total amount to more than this court's jurisdictional limit. Can you tell me, sir, why your insurance, Mr. Williams, let's go back to you. You manage this plane. Can you tell me why Mr. Lee's insurance didn't cover all the damage to the plane?
A lot of the prospective renters or instructors that everybody uses, or we used in this case, carry their own insurance for this type of incident. Their insurance covers basically downtime, loss of operation, or in this case...
You mean Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Would have his own. Do you have your own insurance?
No.
No.
Albert Lee is accusing pilot instructor Ed Meyer of hitting a cone and damaging his plane. Ed says Albert was already paid by his insurance company.
Okay. Mr. Williams, you were the one who recommended
That's
Mr.
correct,
Meyer.
we did.
Don't you do a check to find out if they have their own insurance before you recommend someone?
He had insurance, but it was lapsed.
Well, that he didn't have insurance. I get that all the time. If you have insurance that's lapsed, then you have no insurance.
Yeah. As a flight school, our instructors are required to carry the insurance.
Okay, but that didn't happen here.
That's correct.
So you're lucky that he's not suing you because you managed the plane for him. And you recommended him, Mr. Williams, you know. But you have a management company that manages your plane. They're supposed to make certain that if you have a certain kind of plane, that you have pilots certified to fly those kinds of planes. And if they give me a list of pilots and those pilots aren't certified to fly the kind of plane that I might have, then it's the fault of the management company.
In this case here, the plaintiff and the defendant were working together as far as their payment and the fees they were going to charge.
That's okay. They may have been working head to head. I mean, it was Mr. Meyer's fault, but I'm just telling you that Mr. Lee relies on your advice. What business are you in, Mr. Lee?
I do commercial real estate. I sell shopping centers and office buildings.
Okay. That's not his business. That's why he hires you. And if he hires you, he asks you for recommendations as to where to get the plane repaired for an instructor. Now, the fact that he may pay him independently, he's relied on you for information. So I suggest, Mr. Williams, that you tighten up your ship a little bit. Mr. Meyer, you're responsible to the plaintiff for the damage that you caused his plane. Why did you let your insurance lapse?
It had lapsed. I just didn't even realize the fact that it had lapsed. I just realized the fact that when this came about, that's what happened.
Well, when was the last time you paid premiums?
probably about a year before that.
Anything else you want to tell me, Mr. Meyer? You owe him $10,000. You caused the damage. You have to fix it. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I understand her point, the fact that what she saw.
I thought she's very fair.
These cones are made out of plastic.
It's hard to believe. It sounds like a gunshot when he hit the cone and triggered several warnings. And for him to say he had no idea, it's a little bit hard to believe.
They don't have much weight to them.
With the loud bang after you hit it, it's quite obvious that you should have stopped and shut down and inspect the damage.
There normally is never a cone at the 12 o'clock position. They're at the left side and the right side.
They place cones all the way around the aircraft, and it's part of your responsibility as a pilot in command to do a walk around pre-flight, make sure there's no object in front of your aircraft.
When I taxied out halfway down, that's when I recognized there was an ICAS message that came on.
I finally got it back, and no more student pilots, so won't let any CFIs fly for a while.
You know what I thought about in this case, Sarah? That lay people have to look at something, lay people, and while I'm a judge and have certain expertise, I have no expertise in reading slips that show what's been done on a car or an airplane or a train or a boat.
But we have common sense.
But we have common sense. And your brakes are not part of an engine. Yeah. You know, you have an engine job, and then you have a brake job, and you have a...
I saw where you were going.
Different kind. And, you know, if you have an accident that impacts on the right driver's door, if you put in a new wheel casing in the left rear door, well, that has nothing to do with an accident.
Probably just an oversight. He did state that those two items were not part of, you know.
He did.
He did at the end, but it just feels a little uneasy when they try and slip those things in there, that just common sense doesn't ring true, that it comes from the science.
Yeah, you know, front, back, you know, the head of a horse, the tail of a horse, it doesn't fit in. And there's really no difference between not having insurance when you're driving a car and not having insurance as a flight instructor. Yeah, that's pretty serious.
I would think there would be a more rigorous check on that before you get behind an aircraft, the wheel of an aircraft.
Absolutely. You would think that there would be. Yeah. There's a flaw in the system someplace. Okay, I'm glad nobody was hurt.
Jeremy DeTorres is suing his former employer, Chad Young, for unpaid wages and filing a false restraining order.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2140, DeTorres versus Young.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. DeTorres, according to your complaint, you did some work for the defendant as a plumber. Didn't work out, and he terminated you, and he owes you some wages.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says that while your work in the beginning was okay, you were never an employee of his. You're an independent contractor. That's the way he sets it up, and he's going to explain that to me. That he paid you your wages, even though the last job that you did cost him an awful lot to repair. He was not happy with the quality of work that you did, and his counterclaim is for vandalism, something that happened with his truck, work hours, lost due to your incompetence. That I'm not going to hear, sir. You know, you make a choice with an employee, and if it turns out to be something that is less than satisfactory, then you let them go. But the one who I assume suffered from what you call lack of quality work that he performed was the person that you were working for. Was that a private residence that he was doing work in?
Yes. Yeah, a bunch of private residence.
Yeah, that's the person who suffered.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so we're going to make this as easy as possible. From what days to what days did you work?
I worked for Chad from June 13th to August 3rd.
And how much were you supposed to be paid?
For those 3 days, $840.
And that's for 3 days' work?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you say June 13th?
Yes, ma'am.
To August 3rd?
Correct.
Well, that's more than 3 days.
No, his wage he owes me from August 1st to August 3rd is what he did not pay me for.
Okay, and where did you work during those days?
Multiple residents.
Okay, do you have any sort of a call log from him?
I do. It's right here in my short.
Do you dispute that he worked from August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd?
Yes.
You dispute that
There was one day he actually did one of my jobs for a couple hours that day.
Doesn't matter. He has a log.
Half a day for one day.
Did you pay him for that half day?
I did not, because the job was done incorrectly multiple times.
But he did that job. Okay, now, do you have a log?
As in?
It's some sort of a work log. You have a business. You have people who are general contractors. You get a call. You don't have a payroll because you pay these people independently. Do you pay them in cash or check?
Both.
Well, how did you pay him?
Sometimes it was through a cashier's check and sometimes it was cash.
Okay, but never through a company check where you deducted Social Security.
No, because I 1099 all my employees, so they're all self-employed, so they have to do all that on their own.
I do understand. I mean, you're not the inventor of this whole system, sir, of paying in cash. Okay. Are you one of those independent contractors?
Yes, ma'am.
Stand up. How long have you been an independent contractor?
I've been contracted with Chad since July 5th.
Of what year?
This year, 2022.
Oh, so short term.
Yes, ma'am.
Does he pay you in check or cash? No, look at me.
Check it first, and then later on it became through Venmo, and then it's gone back to check now.
What kind of check?
Cashier's check.
Just a straight cashier's check with nothing taken out?
No, ma'am.
No, I go to my bank to get all that.
What?
I go to my bank to get the cashier's checks, and sometimes I Venmo him the payment too, just to pay.
I understand, but sir, you're not the first person who I know who pays their people in cash and says that you're independent contractors. You're independent contractors. I don't want to know about it. What name do you use for the cashier's checks?
My personal name.
Is this the first time you've worked for him?
Yes.
Okay, let me see what you have for August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Where did you work? Come on.
There were multiple residents, ma'am.
Well, you have to tell me so that he can answer. He says that you worked half a day that he didn't pay you for.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's say that's a full day. So that's $200.
Okay. See, he would email it on his work phone, and I'd follow the addresses there.
Well, then you would have
write
it on
down
your
my
phone.
short notes
Just
on
a
this.
second. Then you would have it on your phone.
It was his company phone. He took it back when he came to my house unannounced and told me that I was fired. Redeemed his truck. Got my tools out of his vehicle.
Okay, just a second. Do you have your phone?
I do. I have my personal one that I talk.
What about the phone that you took from him?
No, that one's actually broke, so it's been with Mo for the past week.
Let me see the notes that you have that you took.
Yes, ma'am.
Fascinating.
It's my shorthand, ma'am.
How do I know what dates these are for?
It was all on his phone, ma'am.
Well, that's not him to have to prove, sir.
I wasn't able to prove anything when he took his phone back. I just had that's the notes when I was employed for him as I wrote down.
It's not helpful to me.
Yes, ma'am.
So far, the only thing that he's acknowledged is that he owes you a day's wages.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is $210. The other part of your complaint is a false restraining order against you.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you file a restraining order against him? Do you have a copy of what you wrote in your restraining order?
I do.
I'd like to see it.
So what got me that restraining order is he called, made threats, and made
Was
threats.
this after you fired him?
It was.
Okay, so after you fired him, he called you.
Made threats.
Well, what did he say when he called you?
Just basically talking about I'm going to come to your house and everything.
He wanted money.
I guess, yeah.
He said, you didn't pay me.
Yeah.
Okay. You say you got a text message and voicemail from Jeremy threatening to come to my place of residence.
Yes.
Can I hear it?
Yeah. Do you want me to play it? Or do you want to look at it?
I want to look at it.
Okay.
So, Mr. Torres, did you, after he fired you and came to your residence, took your house, did you call him threatening to come to his house?
I did.
You did?
With the police. It says it on these text messages, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to take his phone and those text messages.
There's more text. That's just the one where he said he'd send me my money.
That's the voicemail if you want me to play it for you. Sometimes the transcription doesn't work.
Yeah.
You want me to play it?
Just.
Hey, bro. I definitely worked more than 9 hours for the last week that I worked for you. I'll be contacting my... Play with me. I'll show up at your house.
Yeah, that's a threat.
With the police.
Just a second. That's a threat.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I've had more.
That's a threat.
I
Just
had more incidents before that as well.
May I say something, ma'am? He accused me of going into his gated community, slashing tires on his work vehicle. I stated that I was going to come to his house after, if you read my text, I said to him, hey, bro, I think I misunderstood your text message. If I did, my bad. If not, I'll show up at your house with the police. I never went to his house. I waited to see if he'd be the big man and just send me my money like he said he would.
I listened to the message, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
The message sounded threatening.
Did you read the rest of them?
I don't care. That message sounded threatening.
E.T. Torres claims his former employer, Chad Young, owes for unpaid wages and filing a false restraining order.
Okay, that message alone, if he felt threatened because you were going to come to his house, and you not only said you were going to come to his house, but you used an expletive before you did that, which sounded threatening. This may be more benign, but that phone message was sufficient for him to file for a protective order against you.
Okay, why didn't he show up at the protective custody order?
I don't answer your questions.
No,
you don't necessarily.
Absolutely.
Some people don't pursue it because once it's done, it's done.
It wasn't done.
And once it's done,
This is the dismissal right here. Dismissal for the
No,
injury.
I didn't show up. I understand he didn't show up, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm saying to you, I listened to your text message, and he had an absolute right to see.
Can you see where he threatened me as well with all these back and forth texts and calling each other? Because it's in the text
You're
messages.
suing him for money owed for wages and filing a false restraining order.
Okay.
You've proven that you worked an additional day for which he didn't pay you, which is $210. He has a counterclaim. Yeah. He says that you vandalized the tires on his car. The rest of it, I'm not dealing with, sir. You picked this employee. You don't then sue the employee if you don't like the job that they do. You fire them and you get somebody else to do the job. But you can't sue him because did the person who you did the job for sue you?
No, because I've got a really good reputation with my customers.
Because you fixed it. Because it wasn't done right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even up to that last day I said he worked for me, that job I had to go back to 2 weeks ago that they couldn't close on the house.
The next time you won't hire him. Yeah. Maybe other people won't either. But I want you to tell me about the tires. I want you to tell me what proof do you have that he had anything to do with your tires? When were the tires slashed, flattened?
So the police report was done Friday when he made the threats.
Friday, what date?
I got the date right here. I think it was
August 5th.
Yeah, so August 5th is when he did it.
August 5th is when
the police report was made for the threats.
For the threat, for the voicemail?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so it was the end of the day Friday, so court's closed for the weekend.
August 5th?
Yep. And then Monday, the 8th, I went outside to go to work. My tires were slashed in the end. At that point, I realized it was just over and done, and I need to go down and get a restraining order so people can't come onto my property.
Because you believed it was the plaintiff who was responsible. You believed you didn't have proof at the time.
Yes.
You didn't have proof.
Again, and even in my injunction, I knew all I needed was this police report to get the injunction, so I just put in my police report.
You're not talking about an injunction. You're talking about a restraining order.
Yeah, the restraining order. Yeah.
Okay.
I went to file the restraining. So in my restraining order, I put just my tires were flat. I did not put my tires were slashed at any point because I knew the police report was enough to get the restraining order.
Okay, your
so I
tires
didn't go
were
in
flat.
detail about my tires.
Okay, so in the police report, you have that your tires were flattened.
No, that wasn't on the police report because that didn't happen yet. The tire incident did not happen.
Okay.
That happened Friday. Monday morning, I went out in my vehicle to go to work. That's when I found them flat and slashed.
Did you file another police report?
That's when I went and filed the restraining order that day.
Okay, and in the application for a restraining order, you said?
That my tires were flat, and that was it.
Yes, okay.
I didn't mention that they were slashed.
Correct.
So I don't know how he would know my tires were slashed if I didn't mention it on my restraining order.
I don't know. That's an interesting question. Mr. DeTorres. Mr. DeTorres, stop your paper fluttering.
Okay.
What made you think that the defendant's tires were slashed rather than just the air let out of them?
Because I read this police report and it has a mark right here saying, or the file that he did.
Show me and make a circle.
Right here, damaged property is what I read. He checked that I damaged his property because this is written against me.
Mr. Detores, do you understand my question, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm nervous in the
Just a
flight.
second.
I
This
had no
has
sleep.
nothing to do with nerves,
You're
Mr.
right.
Detores.
Well, I had no sleep last night.
That has nothing to do with sleep.
As far as not being...
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
What I'm asking you, Mr. DeTorres, is where does it say here that his tires were slashed?
In my mind, somebody writing that against me, flattened tires, what else would it be? He lives in a gated community.
Well, that could
Where's
be...
the surveillance showing me that my leg injury, the way I walk, is very distinctive? Okay? If he's got proof that I slashed or flattened his tires, I said slashed. It's the same thing as flattened in my mind. That's the way I think. The way I read that, that's just how it came out of my mouth.
But you have to understand that that's not what this says.
Okay? It says that I damaged his
He
property.
said damaged his property, and you said slashed tires.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
How much were the tires?
$450.
Let me see the receipt.
I do not have a receipt because I pay cash for my tires.
Well, that's too bad. You better stop paying cash, sir. You can pay cash for tires.
Yeah.
But when you buy tires with cash and you want to sue for them, you get a receipt.
Yeah.
From the people. And if you know you're coming to court, we're not talking about things that happened 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You were coming to court today.
I went back to the tire shop and he's like, we just, we always do cash for all your vehicles. And
Well, what do we
receipts, no
cash
nothing.
for all your vehicles? That means you get a receipt. All right, your counterclaim's dismissed because you have no proof of anything. On the complaint, sir, I'm awarding you $210, which is 1 day's pay. Thank you very much. This case is over.
This court is adjourned.
The work just wasn't up to the quality that he promised he was going to offer.
It is what it is.
That's just his nature. That's always been his nature.
The judgment is what the judgment is. She felt like I was only awarded a day's pay, and that's what she gave me.
Keep doing what I do. That's all I can do every day.
Well, Sarah Rose, that is the perfect example of you're supposed to have proof when you come to court.
Yep. Standard of proof exists for a reason.
I know that when I go someplace, and sometimes I pay cash.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you pay cash for something,
There's some
or Venmo,
record. Venmo
you're
is a good
supposed to
record.
get a receipt in the event that you want to use whatever you bought and use that fact that you purchased something in a subsequent lawsuit.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as sending a gift. If you send somebody a gift, you keep the receipt until you know that they got the gift.
Yeah.
Then you take it and you throw it away. It's just
good bookkeeping. It's good record keeping. I
And
think.
he's a business guy.
Yeah,
He's a business guy. Didn't make sense to me, but clearly plaintiff was somebody who has a little trouble.
Yeah.
Case 2161, Shaheen versus Larry. All parties, please step forward.
Jamal Shaheen is suing his neighbor, Sabrina Larry, for car damage after Sabrina hit his vehicle and a house.
Mr. Shaheen, tell me where you live.
I live in Moorhead, Minnesota.
And on September 8th of this year, you parked your relatively new car that, according to you, you got a week before.
No, Your Honor.
I had just purchased a Sequoia a week before.
No, actually, it's not. It's not the new car. I mean, it's a used car, but I purchased it maybe a year before that, not exactly a week.
Okay. So it's not a new car and you didn't purchase it a week before?
No.
But you parked it in front of your house. Do you have a photograph of the car?
I do.
I'd like to see it. And it is your claim that the defendant, Miss Larry, while under some sort of influence of some sort of substance, was driving her car, had an accident, hit your car, and caused it to move 25 feet, and it was damaged.
Yes.
And the damage to the car was the rear bumper.
Yep.
Not yep. Yes is the answer.
Yes.
Yes is the answer. Okay. Miss Larry, what time did you have your accident?
9 or 10 a.m.
On the 8th?
Yes.
Where were you coming from?
The grocery store.
Where were you going?
Home.
What kind of drugs had you taken?
I was taking Benadryl, prescription medication. That's all I had. That's what I took. And
Can I see the police report? You remember hitting his car?
No.
You remember the police coming to where your car stopped?
No, I don't remember the police coming.
Well, did the police come?
They did, yes.
And you don't remember that?
I don't remember that.
Were you taken to a hospital?
I was.
You have the discharge notes from the hospital?
I do.
I'd like to see it. What kind of narcotics were found inside the vehicle?
It's alleged that it was a...
No, it's not alleged. This is a police report. I'm asking you. What kind of narcotics were found in your car?
They said that they found a round blue pill that had an M30 on it. That's what it stated.
Sarah, do me a favor.
Sure.
Look up under illegal drugs, M30.
So M30s imitate oxycodone obtained from a pharmacy, but when sold on the streets, the pills routinely contain fentanyl.
Look up this name, Percocet. You smoke Percocet? How do you smoke Percocet? That's the only thing you remembered. You didn't remember the accident. Patient remembers smoking Percocet pill just prior to allegedly passing out and crashing her vehicle. That's what they say from your doctor.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The history is provided by the patient. The history is limited by condition of the patient. History is limited because the patient does not remember the actual automobile accident. Remembers smoking Percocet pill just prior to allegedly passing out and crashing her vehicle. You think the doctor made that up? And they just so happen to have found this blue pill in your console in your car?
That's what they are saying.
Okay. You actually know you could have killed yourself. Yeah. Okay. And you don't remember anything about it because that's what you told them. You don't remember anything about anything after you smoked the little blue pill, which is what they said. So your car was moved. That's the damage to your car.
Yep.
So can I see the estimate for the damage, please?
I think
You gave it to me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Have you had the car fixed?
Just a back tail light that I had to put it on. I was trying to fix it, but don't have any money to do it.
Sarah, look up, please, would you?
I'm looking it up right now.
Oh, great. Thank you. Oh, it's a 21-year-old car. It's got 226,000 miles on it. How much did you pay for it, sir?
I paid 10.
We're not going to spend 7 to fix it.
Well, that's how much it costs.
You find somebody to do it less.
Well, now I am without a car.
You're not without a car, sir. You put on the taillight so that you could drive it. This car is not drivable.
That car was dragged. That back axle, it shakes. I can't drive it.
Between 2 and 5,000.
Between 2 and 5,000. You paid too much for the car, sir. You don't understand something, sir. Even though she was high on drugs and passed out in her car and you were not at fault, it's not windfall day. If you can buy the car for $2,000, buy an old 22-year-old car for $2,000. She's not paying you $7,000 to fix a $2,000 car. That's ridiculous. And I'm not stupid. Do we understand each other? Now, between
$2,500 and $5,000 based off of a 250,000 mile 2002 Toyota.
So you have to find somebody who's going to fix your car for $3,000, sir. That's $1,000 more than you could buy it for. We're done here. Judgment for the plaintiff.
This court is adjourned.
I would remember if I hit a car, and I didn't.
She ran into my car, ran into a garage.
I know exactly what I took, and it definitely wasn't narcotics.
That area that I was living in, it's a really bad area. A lot of drugs are going on over there.
I'm very, very lucky. I'm very blessed. Like she said, I could be dead.
Just the audacity of some plaintiffs to come in here with an almost 22-year-old car with 275,000 miles on it. And I looked it up, and I even priced it on the positive end, the private party value, not a trade-in, and so forth. $7,000 he was comfortable asking the court for a car that's not even worth $7,000.
Yeah, he'll buy.
For a back panel.
Buy a new one. He was lying when I said, how much did you pay for the car? $10,000. That's ridiculous. And he just bought it, he said, a year ago. In the papers, he said he bought it a week before. So either it was a week or a year.
Either way, not worth $7,000.
Not worth $7,000.
Pajaro is suing his ex-girlfriend, Gigi Strackman, for a plane ticket, credit card charges, and a stolen cat.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2016, Pajaro versus Stratman.
Mr. Perari, it is your claim that the defendant, who lived with you for a brief period of time, owes you money for a plane ticket and for her unauthorized use of your credit card.
That's correct.
I don't know what the defense is to this, except that I think her defense is that you were just stupid and she took advantage of you. No. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm actually trying to figure it out. But you met the defendant, according to you, on an online dating app and started a conversation with her on what date?
So we met in March 2020 on a dating app for LGBTQ people. We started dating in March 2020. 4 months later, she moved in with me, which I know is not smart, but...
July?
Yes, in July 2020.
And where had she been living?
She had been living in Florida.
And where do you live?
I live in Seattle, Washington.
Did you send her money for a plane ticket? How did she get to you?
She had money herself at that time to cover the cost of moving.
So she moved, and it was her own funds that she used to
Yeah,
move?
the swindling hadn't started yet.
You must have had some substantial What is this? What is this look? I don't know what this look is.
Oh, it's just the verbiage.
Okay, well, let me go back and let me start with you, okay? Because there's only one theatrical person here in this room, and that's me. Do you understand?
I do.
Yes. I get paid the big bucks to be theatrical. Okay, so Miss Strackman, you lived in Miami. He lived in Seattle, Washington. You decided to move in with him. What kind of work were you doing in Seattle?
I was a video editor, but when COVID happened, everyone kind of lost their jobs.
And what arrangements did you make with him when you were going to move in with him?
He told me that if I gave up my life in Florida, I had a very lovely apartment, lots of friends.
You had a lovely apartment, you had
I
nice
gave up
friends,
everything to
but
go
no
and
job.
move to Seattle.
Okay, so he said, move to Seattle and I'll take care of you.
Yes.
That's what you say in here.
Yes.
And that was in July of 2020.
Yes.
Is that about what you said to her?
No. The reason she moved in, again, it was 4 months after we started dating, which normally...
Had you seen her during those 4 months?
We had Zoom.
That's either yes or no.
No.
No, you had no physical contact with her?
No.
Okay.
But because we were in lockdown and we were both pretty isolated, it made sense. Her lease was ending and things moved really fast between us, so we decided to try it together. Yeah.
Okay. Was there any discussion about what she was going to do once she got to Seattle?
Yeah, so as she stated, she was a freelance video editor, and she said she was going to potentially have more work in Seattle and continue to try and find gigs for that or find other employment, drive for Uber Eats.
But she came to you and she wasn't working?
She wasn't working, no.
Okay. And the relationship with her ended in what month?
It ended in February 2021.
So it was a relatively short live-in period, maybe 6-7 months.
Right, because of her.
Did she ever work when she was with you?
Not that I
Just a second, I'm going to ask her. Did you ever have full-time gainful employment during the time that you lived with the plaintiff?
I did not. I was not supposed to.
I didn't ask you. I don't ask to be editorialized. I asked you, did you ever work full-time?
No.
Did you ever work part-time?
No.
Okay. Then there came a time, according to what I read in both of your papers, that he purchased a plane ticket for you to go back to Miami. That would be a yes.
That is correct. You're right.
And what month was that?
That was in February of 2021.
And tell me, in your own words, what you told him as to why you wanted to go to Miami, because he wasn't going with you.
He was not going with me.
Tell me what you told him as to why you needed to go to Miami.
I told him that I needed to visit my sister.
And does your sister live in Miami?
Yes.
Had you been there to visit her before?
I had, yeah.
While you were living with him?
No, I didn't travel.
So this was the first time you wanted to go and visit your sister?
Yes.
Okay, was there any specific reason that you gave him as to why you wanted to go visit your sister?
She was sick and I wanted to be there.
But did you tell him what she was sick with?
Yeah, it was COVID.
Does she live alone?
At the time, yes.
You know, this is not going to be easy. It's going to get harder. Now, the plaintiff seems like a relatively intelligent human being. Hands off hips. If somebody I lived with say, I want to go and see, unless it was a young child, maybe in a school or something that lived alone in an attic dormer, I want to go see my sister who's sick with COVID, and you don't have COVID, and this is 2021, I would say, well, why would you do that and put yourself at risk and then come back and put me at risk? Didn't you have that conversation?
We didn't, Your Honor, no. It just didn't come up.
I want to go take care of my sister because she has COVID? What about isolation? Didn't you ever hear about that?
I did hear about that. I spent a lot of
Well, what do
time
you think that means?
Isolation means not traveling.
No, isolation means you're not supposed to be around other people if you test positive for COVID. If you're sick, stay at home. You don't travel cross country to be with somebody who's sick. But it doesn't make any difference, actually, because you should have picked up on that or whatever, because you didn't really want this ticket, according to what I read, Miss Strackman, to go and visit your sick sister. You needed this ticket because you had started to become involved with a boyfriend who was in jail in Florida.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. So that's a yes, which you didn't tell him. So you took the money from him for, let's just start with the ticket, under false pretenses.
I did, but
Just a second. That's all. I did. Not a but. Not a little. I did take the money from him under false pretenses when you went to Florida. He said you needed it for one thing, And in fact, you didn't. That's the false pretenses. How much was the ticket?
The ticket was for $427.40.
Okay. And when you went to Florida, Ms. Strackman, and you stayed in a hotel, motel, what did you stay in?
I stayed in a hotel.
And whose charge account did you use for the hotel?
Yenny had given me a credit card.
That's not what I asked you. That's a name. Whose credit card did you use when you stayed at the hotel?
The plaintiff, Yenny's.
Mm-hmm. And that was by pre-arrangement with him that you were going to stay in a hotel rather than with your sister?
No, but I had the credit card for...
Now, that's not what I mean. Let's go back. You had the credit card. I'm assuming for the purpose of this question that what you say, and I don't know if it's true, but assuming for this question that what you say in your answer is accurate, that he gave you a credit card to use for your necessaries and expenses for emergencies.
Yes.
Yes. You would agree that going to visit secretly another boyfriend in Miami is not a necessity.
You would agree that Yenny cheating on me was not a necessity.
No. But did you use his credit card?
I did, and I believe that human love and kindness.
Okay, just a second. That's it. Do I look like I need help from you? If you had given him, Ms. Strackman, a credit card, I want you to try to take everything else from out of your mind. If you had given him your credit card and said, I'm giving this to you because I said to you I would take care of you when we lived together if you didn't have a job. Let's say I believe that. I'm not so sure, but let's say I believe that. You would agree that going to see another boyfriend across the country was not a necessity for him or for me or for Whitney
for you, no,
or for Sarah.
For me, I'm a woman with needs. I need dopamine. I need love. I need connection. And I wasn't getting that from Yenny. So it was a necessity that I went to go visit another man. Yenny had other girls as well on the side.
But you didn't, just a second, Ms. Strackman, you didn't pay for the other girls. You didn't pay for his other girls.
I paid emotionally.
Oh, you said, what an idiot.
His ex-girlfriend, Gigi Strackman, owes for the cost of a plane ticket, credit card charges, and stealing his cat. Gigi says they were all necessary expenses for her.
Now, you should feel so lucky that you got off so cheap.
I think you should assume everything that comes out of her mouth.
No. Yeah.
Because if I had, I wouldn't be here.
I get who I'm dealing with,
Yes.
sir. $427 for the flight ticket. How much was the credit card?
The credit card, also there's an incident with my cat as well, which
Just a second.
I'll address later.
Well, I'm going to get to that in a minute. That's your least strong suit, but it sort of tells me again who I'm dealing with. Okay. How much did she use on the credit card in Miami?
Okay.
Only in Miami.
Right. In Miami, she spent $1,000 on...
Now, just a second. Is that a sheet from your credit card company?
Yes.
I'd like to see it. Easier.
Would you like me to add the $427 for the flight ticket?
Yeah. Let's separate the two for me now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Giving you stuff, just show me where the bills are.
So those are two separate credit card statements because she used it in two separate months. One of those is when she initially started using it, which was...
I don't care when she initially started. Let's understand.
Yeah.
She got your credit card.
Yes.
I only want to see the charges from Miami.
Okay, it's the one that says bail bonds, the bigger charge, which was...
Just circle.
Okay.
How much?
That was for $1,000, but overall it was...
No, $1,000. We're going to do it this way. $1,000 bail bonds.
Yes.
Okay, next.
And then she spent $262.50 at a hotel for both of them.
$250 for a hotel.
And then she spent $105 on a fancy dinner for her and her lover.
And her what?
And her lover.
Okay, 150?
150 is not fancy. That's the kind of person you're dealing with.
150. I don't think there's a question before you, madam. 10, 4, $1,400 there. Is that close?
Including the 1,000?
Including the 1,000, but then not including the 425.
Yeah.
So it would be 1,827.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay. Now let's get to the final issue. So that takes care of your plane ticket and the credit card while she was in Miami. Now let's talk about the cat. Ms. Strackman, you moved in with the plaintiff July of 20.
Yes.
And when you moved in with the plaintiff, did he have a cat?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And what was that cat's name?
That cat's name is Momo.
And you lived with him a total of approximately 6 months.
Yes, Your Honor. And during that time, the cat...
No, I didn't ask you any questions. There's no question before
Daddy.
you. There's no question before you. I have dates. You moved in, you lived with him for 6 months. When you moved in, the cat was there. And if you recall, in what month and year had you gotten the cat?
I got Momo right before she moved in with me as an emotional support animal, which is legally protected.
When you say right before she moved in with you, give me the month.
It was.
And where did you get the cat from?
June 2020. I adopted her from a shelter.
So you didn't have the cat long?
No.
When she moved in?
No.
And then the two of you had the cat?
Yes.
Okay,
but
great.
The cat was
and then when just a second, then when she left in February of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We are now in August of 2022, and you recently filed this case with regard to your cat.
Right. I didn't know where she was.
Just a second.
Disappeared.
I don't care.
Okay.
You recently filed this case with regard to the cat. Did you make a police report when she left with the cat?
I don't.
The answer is either yes or no.
I don't like involving the police, so no. I didn't want to ruin her life.
Oh, well, I want to tell you something. I have a small 4-pound dog at home. I love that creature more than anything in the world, except my grandchildren, my husband, and my children. Hope there are enough life rafts for everybody, including the dog.
I did try to hire a private investigator in Florida, but I didn't know where she was.
Okay, you didn't report it to the police, and I do have a problem with that. Now, Ms. Strackman, you knew when you moved into him he had this cat that he had adopted.
Yes, Your Honor.
I want you to tell me what led you to believe you had the legal right to take that cat?
Because that cat had become severely bonded to me. Yenny was neglecting both of us, both of the women in his life he chose to neglect.
Because I was working and
No, just a second.
Sorry, I paid for everything.
And so the cat.
So he was neglecting the cat and you, so you decided maybe half a neglect, you could be one whole person.
Exactly. Me and her are just getting out of here and gonna go start a new life together. I spent day and night with that cat. That cat was extremely bonded to me. She would be devastated without me.
Tell me how the cat died in your custody. Tell me how the cat died in your custody. That's not a smile story.
It's not. No, it's absolutely devastating. I am completely torn up about it. Unfortunately, my boyfriend's dog was not accustomed to cats and mistook her for a toy, and she did not survive that.
What kind of a dog does your boyfriend have?
We don't know the breed. I've never done the genetic testing.
You have a picture of the dog?
I do not. I didn't bring any evidence. I was hoping you just used.
You just brought your smile. Okay.
She's not with her boyfriend.
She said, I didn't ask you a question. There's no question before you.
Love transcends bars, Annie.
Okay, 1827, $1,000 for taking his cat, and because you're a fool. 7, 2, 8, 2827, judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much. We're done here.
This court is adjourned.
First of all, I'm glad, and I think justice was served. I'm not for Momo, but for the other scams that Jacqueline pulled.
Then I need dopamine, I need oxytocin, I need love, I need care.
Well, credit card fraud.
And Yenny said that they were going to be the person who was going to give that to me.
Deception, played with my heart.
And then didn't, so I had to find it elsewhere.
It was incredibly, this was Momo.
I did not have the cat killed. I was very attached to Momo. That was my cat as well.
It was incredibly hard to deal with. I was also alone when I had to process that news, so.
I did not set a hitman out on the cat. That's a lot to say.
She saw me as a sugar daddy, and she saw herself as a wannabe Anna Nicole Smith. Unfortunately, neither of us are those things.
Could I plead the fifth on finding another sugar daddy?
Yet another lesson we learned about cohabitants living together and the rules of what not to do. No cars, no pets, no money exchanges.
No joint pets, no joint.
Exactly. But today we learned a new one. Today, don't give access to your credit card to anyone that you don't want racking up charges for any purpose, even to visit a secondary lover in another state.
You know, the divorce rate in this country is still hovering somewhere around 50%. The living togethers who don't quite make it to the marriage place is a much greater number.
Yeah.
Living togethers don't stay together 70% of the time. Why in the world would you buy a pet together?
It's a risk.
Car together, a timeshare together.
True.
Or give somebody a credit card.
Yeah.
At the time that you do it, you're happy with them. But since at least 70% of the time you're going to go your own separate ways, at that time you're mad at each other.
And the lines get blurry.
Christian Sanchez is suing his former employer, Juan Vasquez, for unpaid work and defamation of character.
Court come to order. All rise.
Be seated, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2007, Sanchez versus Vasquez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Sanchez, how old are you, sir?
I'm 26 years old.
And What is your educational background?
I have a bachelor's degree in film that I got from Full Sail University. I'm currently...
Slowly.
I'm sorry.
You have a bachelor's degree from?
Full Sail University.
Where is that?
Orlando, Florida.
Orlando, Florida. That I can hear. You have to understand, when you're dealing with someone of my age, you have to sort of factor that into your speech. People who are 26 may be able to follow you. I'm senior. I need people to speak slowly so that I can follow them.
I got you.
So you got a bachelor's degree from a university in Florida and graduated when?
I graduated in 2018.
And from there, what kind of work did you do?
From there, I jumped around a little bit. I did
Okay,
work...
you jumped around. Did your family live in Florida?
No, ma'am.
Where do they live?
They live in Beaumont, Texas.
Did you live with them at all in Beaumont?
No, ma'am.
After college?
Not until the pandemic.
Okay. Well, the pandemic was in 2020.
Yes.
So you graduated in June of 2018, and then the pandemic started on or about March of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
And in March of 2020, you went home to your parents' house.
Yes.
And you stayed there until when?
I'm still currently there. I started going back to school, actually.
When did you start going back to school?
My first classes were in December of last year.
In Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So you actually had a year and a half out of school when you were hopping around.
Yes, ma'am.
So I want you to tell me who you worked for in that year and a half.
I was an intern on a documentary.
Okay, and when was that?
That was about a few months after I graduated.
So maybe September, October?
Yeah, probably around there. I did a few independent films.
Okay, and what kind of work did you do for them?
Just kind of depended what they needed. It was mostly
Like a
PA
PA?
stuff. Yeah.
Like a PA. And for that work, were you paid as a PA?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much were you paid as a PA?
They paid me $75 a day.
Pay you in cash?
They paid me in cash.
Okay, so you did those couple of little projects, and then what?
I was also waiting tables at the time.
Okay, well, you got to eat.
Right. After the pandemic hit, my lease was up. I moved back home. Decided I would go back to school to get a tech job. I'm going for cybersecurity right now. I had heard through a family friend.
Okay, let's stop there. This case is, I don't think so difficult, but relatively interesting for me because we don't get them all the time. Mr. Vasquez, you were making a movie.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this the first movie you ever made?
No, Your Honor.
How many movies have you made?
This was film number 5 for me. Written, directed, produced.
Is it a fiction piece or a documentary?
It's actually based on a true story.
So it's a docudrama.
Correct, yes.
See that? Are you impressed with that? There you go, a docudrama. How long a film?
90 to 100 minutes. We're still in post, still editing. So
Keep your voice up. Approximately how long?
100 minutes.
What was your budget?
It's still in
About what was your budget? Then you're going to tell me where you got the financing.
roughly 120,000.
Where did you get the money from?
A lot of it was my money and other producers.
How much did you put in?
Over 80,000.
And you've got other people in for about 40.
Yeah.
Did you make money on your other films?
I have, yes, in the past.
Okay, this is what the case is about. Mr. Sanchez says that he was hired by your company. And he was hired by your company to work on this last film that you were doing. And it was a paying job. And at the end of the period, he was not paid. And in addition, he says that when he complained about not being paid, you put out there on social media that you weren't paying him because he was on drugs. Is that what the case is basically about?
Basically. It wasn't on social media. It was through text messages. He accused me of it, but...
Text messages?
Yes.
Well, that to me is almost social media. If it doesn't come to me by the U.S. Postal Service, I call it social media. I know. Okay. Did you answer an ad for this job?
No, I heard about it through a family friend.
And when did you meet Mr. Vasquez for the first time?
We didn't actually meet face-to-face until about Saturday, July 10th, 2021.
Did you communicate via text messages or
Yes, ma'am.
emails? Well, when was the first either text message or email?
The first text message was on Monday, the 28th, 2021 of June.
6/28, 2021. May I see that, please?
Of course. And this one, too. Sorry.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. So you first met by email. You say you have one spot available for him as an internship, and then practically immediately thereafter, you say somebody's family is sick in the crew. You have a spot for him as an assistant director.
So, Your Honor.
I'm reading this. Well, you have to
Yeah.
tell me what that means. I need a first AD. Someone's family is sick and they can't do it.
Correct.
So what is an AD?
He's basically going to assist me as a director, everything from...
Assistant to the director.
Correct.
Okay. I need a first AD. Someone's family is sick. So that's different from an internship.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I mean, we do have internships where people don't get paid, and then you have internships where they do get paid. Most people now pay their interns. Okay. And when you met, because clearly the last email that I just read suggests that you were approaching the door and you're 2 minutes away, and then you met the defendant. Tell me about that conversation.
Blames filmmaker Juan Vasquez owes him for unpaid work. One says Christian was an unpaid intern.
Okay, and when you met, because clearly the last email that I just read suggests that you were approaching the door and you're 2 minutes away, and then you met the defendant. Tell me about that conversation.
So we met, we sat down. I kind of told him a little bit about my background, like I told you before. He kind of went over like what he was expecting me to do.
Just a second. I want you to tell me what he told you that he wanted you to do.
Managing the set, creating schedules, calling extras, making sure that they were there on time.
Is that what you told him?
Yes, basically assisting me whatever I needed.
Okay, that sounds like more than a PA.
We didn't ask for PAs.
No, but what you outlined was clearly more. What did you agree to pay him?
Never agreed to pay him anything. So
Well, how could you do that?
he was an intern. He was presented to me as an intern.
No, not after this text message. He said he was looking for an internship, and you said to him, I have a better role for you. I need a first AD. Someone's family is sick. Whose family was sick? The name of the person.
I don't recall.
Okay. When you did a budget, did you have a budget for a first AD?
No, we didn't.
Careful. Did you have a budget for a first AD?
No, not that I remember. I usually don't use a first AD. So the terminology.
No. Listen, you know who produces this show? You want to be careful with what you say around people, who are buying your product.
Sure.
Right? Because you're going to be presenting them with budgets, eventually, hopefully for you. There's no question that if I got this text from you, Mr. Vasquez, I would say, oh my God, I'm going to get a different job, a better role, because he says I have a much better thing. Somebody who was supposed to do it got sick, they can't do it. That's a much different thing from what you describe as bringing me iced tea and setting up the coffee. That's a different role. What did he tell you he was going to pay you, sir?
He told me, verbally, he told me that...
Look, careful when you talk to me. At that meeting, that day, what did he tell you he was going to pay you?
$150 per day for 14 days.
How many days did you actually work on the set?
On the set, I worked 14 days.
It's a lie.
I got COVID on the last 2 days, and he asked me to work from home. And I still scheduled and did all that stuff.
I never asked him to work from home.
You got COVID the last 2 days, so you were actually there 12 days.
Physically there, but I was still working for him.
Who knows? How do I know that?
I have text.
I would like to see the work that you did from home on day 13 and 14.
1,800 for 12 days, not including.
Okay.
On those specific days, I have it on my phone. Could I pull it up?
No, I want to see what you did. If you did work, you sent emails out, you sent scheduling out, and you would probably have to have a conversation with your boss and say, I have COVID, but I'll do whatever I could do from home.
I have all of that.
I'd like to see it.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, if I may interject.
Yeah.
So he shows up to the set sick with COVID, gets everybody sick. I had to call the next day of filming because of that.
Are you talking about after he was there for 12 days?
Yes, I'm talking about that particular part, but
I'm talking about he was there for 12 days. He didn't have COVID for 12 days.
we don't know that.
Well, who knows that? I don't know if you have COVID.
We just got tested, Your Honor.
Who knows if you have COVID? Who knows if I have COVID? All I know is I came to work today. I expect to be paid. I wouldn't come to work if I was sick and laying in bed and feeling nauseous and...
Your Honor, if you had a remote position, that'd be different. He didn't have a remote position.
I'm not talking about his 2 days. He was there 12 days.
He did it throughout the course of the project. He was never on time.
I don't care if he was never on time. If he was never on time, sir, then you fire him.
There was days he was not on set.
Listen to me.
Okay.
If he was never on time, then you tell him don't come back after the second day. But if you let him come for 12 days and do whatever he does, I mean, Mr. Vasquez, I'm going to make this as painless for you as possible. There are some employees that I have had over the years that were terrific. Some not so terrific, some terrible. The terrible ones, who were really terrible, who I would have liked to have fired, period, I couldn't do it because of human resources. Sure. They have a whole protocol, volumes, like an Encyclopedia Britannica, what you have to go through to fire somebody who's not doing their job.
Right.
But you have to pay him until you can fire him. If you have him come to work, even if he's doing a terrible job, you still have to pay him. Now, if he goes home because he's sick and you're not giving him sick leave and you don't agree for him to work remotely, that's on him. Does that sound fair to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so glad. Unless, of course, you agree to have him work remotely, then you have to pay him for 14 days.
Right.
It starts right there, Your Honor, and then the next 2 days follow it.
JV, that's you?
Yes, ma'am.
JV, that's you. So you did, in fact, confer with him from home. Tell him to order food, to picking it up. I don't care if he worked for you for a half hour. He's not your friend. The thing that I find most troubling here, actually, for the both of you, is he says that you told him not to tell the rest of the crew that he had COVID because they would freak out.
Correct.
And he didn't tell the rest of the crew
as far
that
as
he
I
had
know.
COVID. Well, you told him not to. And he said, okay. Well, you have to know, as a good citizen, that's not the right thing to do. You do understand that.
And, by not having him on the set, we thought that was proper protocol.
No, you're supposed to notify people who you came into close contact with. I remember they had this whole contact tracing. I know people call all the time
the
and say,
reality is, Your
we
Honor,
were out
everybody
together
that was
a month
on
ago.
the set.
What?
The reality is, everybody that was on the set, we did discuss the fact that he had COVID, so people knew that.
I don't care whether people knew that. It says here, I won't say anything to the rest of the crew, like you said.
Yeah, because I didn't want
understand
to
that you don't want everyone to freak out. I just find that troubling. In any event,
it's just
he
like
clearly
yelling bomb in an airport. That would have created a bigger hysteria.
Well, that's what COVID is. COVID is a bomb in an airport.
We conveyed to everybody on the set what was going on. The reality is, this man was presented as an intern, never said paid internship. Once he got on the set, he tried to strong arm us, then demanded the money once he had all the information on the set. We didn't hire him. We didn't post a job for him. We made a job for him because a producer called me up. This is when nepotism goes bad. This kid couldn't even order pizza, Your Honor. He spent $300 at Domino's. Who spends $300 at Domino's?
Mr. Vasquez, then you fire him.
I should have
fired him. Do you
fired
understand?
I should have fired him.
Then your recourse is to fire him. And you're a little company that doesn't have a HR department. Say, you know what? What's your first name?
Christian.
Christian, you're a nice guy, but it's not working out here. We're going to pay you for 3 days because that's what you were here. Don't come back. I'm going to get somebody else.
And you should have done that, Your Honor.
But that's what you should have done.
Yes.
But that's not what you did. You continued to use whatever limited services he provided, even when he was home with COVID.
Yes.
Even when he went home with COVID, you continued to ask him to do things for your company and for the film, and that you can't do without compensating him.
Sanchez has accused his former employer, Juan Vasquez, of not paying him for 14 days of work. Juan claims Christian was incompetent and never a paid employee.
Okay, even when he went home with COVID, you continued to ask him to do things for your company and for the film, and that you can't do without compensating him. You can't. Okay, so you owe him $2,100 because I assume you paid him nothing. Now, let's get to the second part of your claim, which is defamation. That I'd like to see. I mean, if you're going to be a producer, if you're going to make films, sir, you have to understand. Say, you're not working out, you're fired. Something that I would love to be able to say a lot.
I agree.
Not
I
working
should have
out,
fired
you're
him right
fired
away.
without risking my house and my car and my dog.
I was taking him on as a basically.
I don't care what you were thinking.
Producer
That's
called
not what
me,
you said.
asked me to take him on. That's why I took him on.
He actually called me and told me how
Just
good
a
of a job
second.
I was doing.
It doesn't require an answer. Okay.
And I can show the messages, how he came to be on the set. He was presented
Just a
as...
second. I don't care how he was presented to you. If your Aunt Tilly said, do me a favor, this is my godson.
It was his Aunt Tilly.
He hasn't been able to get a job since he graduated from college.
He hasn't made
He's home. He's home in the attic of his parents' house playing the guitar. We want him to have a job. It's irrelevant. You gave him a job. And if he didn't work out, say, what was the name of that woman from that show that says you're fired or something? Well, anyway, you say you're fired. That's easy. Do we remember the name of that woman from England who had a show where she said, you're out, get out? I don't know. She was terrific. Let me see.
The weakest link.
Weakest link. That was the lady. Perfect. Thank you.
And that's a direct text message to him that I never posted on social media.
Oh.
It was actually a group text.
Just a second. So, Mr. Vasquez, in here, you say to him, this is the second part of his case, which is for defamation. And that's okay. He didn't defame you.
Okay.
Sir, he said they're taking you out of the credits, but you were never promised credits.
In the contract, it says I am.
Let me see where in the contract it said you'd be in the credits. And I didn't even know there was a contract. I thought
He's
you had
also done this before.
Shh.
Oh, wait.
Shh. Shh. It says you employed him as an actor.
Your Honor, I'm signing actor agreements every day. He put that in front of me to sign. Why would I sign an actor agreement for a first AD?
Just a second. Sir, is this the agreement he put in front of you? Or did you?
I sign actor agreements every day on the...
You're a business guy.
Yeah.
I'm a business lady.
That looked like an actor agreement.
Sign
That's why I signed it.
actor agreement. That's what it says.
Yeah. He's not an actor.
Don't sign it. It says you agreed to pay him $150 a day for 4 days of shooting.
14.
14 days of shooting. And that he will be responsible for paying all the taxes on it. So he was going to be paid in
I didn't write that out, Your Honor.
Kevin, would you show this to him, please, and see if he can identify that as his signature? I'm going to check here to see if it's his signature. It looks like his signature to me. Mr. Vasquez, it appears to be the same signature that you used to sign the answer.
Yes, Your Honor.
So that's your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And this says, actor shall receive a credit for acting in the film. Well, that's ridiculous. You didn't act in the film, right?
No, ma'am.
Well, we're going to strike that out because you can't perform that because you didn't act in the movie. Do you understand?
I understand, ma'am.
Okay, very good. And it's clear that whatever this says, based upon this, if you delete one part of a contract, let me see if I remember, if part of a contract, Sarah, is impossible to perform,
Then it's not fully integrated.
and one party acts on that contract, and you can retain part of the contract because of services that were rendered pursuant to the contract, you can eliminate one part.
Yes.
So I can eliminate the actor part of getting credit. So you're not getting credit on this. You're entitled to the $150 a day. As far as the defamation is concerned, sir, what he said in here was clear. He said he was told by someone else, which is very possible. And the only thing that you can produce for me today is this fellow who said you tried to put together a little bit of a drug transaction. Are you?
No.
Well, then you're irrelevant. You can produce, because if he says, told me, then he's not saying you did this. He put it in a text to you that
He
this
said
is
it
what
in
he was told.
retaliation whenever I served him the night before. The very next morning, he sent me that text message.
I don't care. I don't care. He's not a great businessman. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,100. Thank you very much. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
I thought she was very fair. I'm really, really happy with how the judgment came out.
He was an intern. Interns aren't paid. It never said paid internship.
He tried to avoid signing a contract at first.
The reality is, with a budget, we would love to pay the kid, but he cost us more money than he was actually worth.
He lies constantly. Nothing's ever his fault. He always makes up a new scenario in which he's the victim.
He couldn't even order pizza. I mean, who spends $300 at Domino's?
Handed me the actor's agreement, told me to sign it.
No more nepotism. If I don't know him, I've embedded him. I don't want them on the project.
A little bit weird, but it had everything.
And this kid is going to go be a cybersecurity guy.
Always save your receipts, dude. Always just keep any sort of communications, even if it's a phone call, send a text or an email that just recaps what you said.
I was so happy to vent for a moment on the current inability to fire inept people and to fire people who aren't doing their job, which has been getting worse over the last quarter of century. I actually believe that HR is a vital service for people who are unjustly, based on something other than their performance, treated badly by an employer.
Mm-hmm.
And harassment in the workplace, I think, is important. Anyway, I got that out of my system. The contract.
Yeah, the contract. I think it was unenforceable to begin because I think the form was clearly erroneous. It wasn't the proper form. He wasn't an actor. Both of them knew he wasn't an actor. Right. However, it was signed by both parties, and there was substantial performance on behalf of the plaintiff by showing up to work every day, performing his duties under the contract. So as soon as he substantially performed the contract, the defendant can't then claim it's unenforceable.
First of all, because he's not an actor.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Chào mọi người. Ở video trước mình đã hoàn thành xong được hàm mốc số 3 của phần đầu con gấu như thế này. Và ở video lần này mình dừng cho mọi người mắc hàm mốc số 4, số 5 và hàm mốc số 6. Và hàng tiếp theo là hàm mốc số 4. Mọi người sẽ móc cho mình 2x và 1 tăng trên hàng. Mình đã móc xong hàng móc số 4 và mình sẽ móc hàng số 5 và hàng số 5, số 6. Mỗi hàng mọi người sẽ móc cho mình 24 mũ đơn. Mình đã móc xong hàng móc số 5 là mình sẽ móc hàng móc số 6. Lima số 6 là mình sẽ mất hàng số 7.